still remember the way the light buzzed that day. Too bright, too cold. It was mid-July, the kind of hot that sticks to your skin like glue the second you leave the house. But inside that Walmart, it felt like a refrigerator. The kind where your fingertips start to sting if you linger too long near the frozen food section. That's what I remember first. The cold, and how everything after it felt off. We'd only been in Spartanburg, South Carolina, for about 8 weeks. My dad got laid off back in Ohio and picked up work at a paper mill down here. My mom was clocking back-to-back shifts at the hospital. Money was tight, and starting over in a town you didn't pick feels like learning to breathe through a straw. So that day it was just me and Jamie. I'm Lena, 17. I watch my brother a lot during the summer. He's 9. Quiet, sweet, smarter than he lets on. It was 2 days before his birthday. We didn't have much, but I figured I could spare a few bucks to make his day feel special. A new toy, maybe a small cake, something to make him smile. Walmart was quiet, unusually so for the middle of a weekday. There was that weird hum in the air, like when a thunderstorm's about to roll in but the sky hasn't decided yet. Jamie ran straight to the toy aisle. It was his favorite place. I let him go ahead while I pushed the cart behind, scanning a list we'd scribbled out that morning. He was holding a dinosaur figure, one of those Jurassic World ones with the swinging tail, when I noticed the man. Standing still, a little too still. He was maybe late 30s, tall, wearing a beige hoodie, the kind people wear when they don't want to be noticed. His jeans were faded and stiff. His sneakers were white once, but now stained and scuffed near the soles. He was standing near the clearance shelf, not looking at toys, not touching anything, just staring. Not at me, not at Jamie, just in our direction, but through us, like we were already ghosts. I tried not to overthink it. People are weird sometimes. Maybe he was waiting for someone. Maybe he zoned out. Maybe I was just tired. Jamie tugged on my sleeve. "Lena," he whispered, "I don't like him." That's when I knew it wasn't just me. We left the aisle slowly. I didn't want to make it obvious. I told Jamie we'd go check the bakery for cupcakes. As we walked, I glanced behind us. He was still there, watching. We turned a corner near the restrooms in the back. I acted like I was heading into the women's bathroom, just for a breather, just to put a wall between us and him. Jamie followed without a word. I reached for the stall door and froze, footsteps behind us. Heavy, deliberate, 1, then 2. I pushed Jamie into the nearest stall and locked it. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I could hear breathing, deep, labored. One of the stall doors creaked open nearby, then another, and then, bang. The stall next to us shook from the hit. Jamie jumped. I covered his mouth instinctively. He was trembling. Then I heard a woman's voice, sharp, shocked. "Sir, this is the women's restroom." Silence. Then hurried steps. A slam of the door. We waited. 10 seconds. 30. A minute. My legs were cramping when I finally opened the stall door and peeked out. The woman, maybe in her 50s, was standing by the sinks, her eyes wide with confusion. "Are you okay?" she asked, voice shaky. I nodded. He followed us. She walked us to the front. The manager called security. They pulled the tapes, and that's when everything started to really feel wrong. We sat near the customer service desk. Jamie pressed close to me on the hard plastic bench. The air smelled like popcorn and floor cleaner. My hands were still shaking. I couldn't stop watching the automatic doors, half expecting the man to walk back in, or worse, appear behind the glass like some horror movie reveal. The security guard was polite, probably in his 20s, clean-shaven, nervous. He asked us what we saw, had us describe the man. Beige hoodie, faded jeans, dirty sneakers, still as a statue, staring, following. He nodded along and typed on a tiny keyboard behind the counter. "Okay, let's pull the footage." We waited as the footage loaded. First the toy aisle. He played it back. There was Jamie, holding the dinosaur toy. There was me, our movements clear as day, the red clearance shelf. A woman walked past with a stroller. A man in a red shirt grabbed dog food. But no beige hoodie, no one standing still, no one staring. "Wait, go back," I said, leaning closer. "You don't see him?" He was right there, I swear, right next to that red tag. The guard rewound it again, same scene. Still no man. "Weird," he said. "You're sure this is the right aisle?" "Yes," I snapped more forcefully than I meant. He was there. Jamie saw him too. Jamie didn't say a word, just nodded. His hands were balled into fists in his lap. The guard pulled up other cameras, the hallway near the restrooms, the front entrance, even the bakery section we never reached. Nothing. Not one frame showed the man we saw. "Maybe the cameras glitched," the manager offered, before the timestamp. Or maybe it was a customer who left. No one said it out loud, but I could hear what they were thinking. Stress, imagination, teen girl paranoia. Back in the car, Jamie was quiet. Too quiet. He usually talked the whole ride home, narrating pretend stories or pointing out funny-shaped clouds. But today he just stared out the window. I tried to lighten the mood. "Cool, huh? Hey, maybe we'll find something online later. That T-Rex toy was..." He turned to me slowly. "He's still here." The air felt like it vanished from the car. "What?" Jamie looked down at his hands. "He said he just wants to know where your room is." I didn't say anything after that. I didn't want to scare him more. I didn't want to believe it, but I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a second. The thunder started around midnight. One of those summer storms that crawls in slow, lighting the sky long before the rain hits. I sat on the edge of my bed, hoodie wrapped around me, flashlight gripped tight in one hand. Jamie was asleep across the hall. I'd checked on him 3 times already just to be sure. He always slept like a stone, even now. But I couldn't. The whole house felt too quiet, like it was holding its breath. Every creak made me jump. Every passing car made me move toward the window. And then around 2:17 a.m., it happened. The doorbell rang. Twice. Ding dong. Pause. Ding dong. I didn't move. My body froze like it didn't belong to me. Our porch light was motion sensitive. It hadn't come on. I slipped out of bed and tiptoed toward the front door. Carefully, I peeled back the curtain covering the glass. No one was there. Just the porch, wet from the storm. A single puddle stretching across the top step. No shape in the yard, no shadows on the sidewalk, no car. I stayed there, barely breathing, for another 10 minutes. Then I went to the back of the house and checked the locks. Every door was still bolted, every window still shut. Still, I felt watched. Morning couldn't come fast enough. The sky lightened around 6:15, that heavy storm haze turning blue-gray. I finally opened the door to see if there had been any sign someone had actually come. There were no footprints, but there was a scratch. Low on the bottom of the door, just above the rubber weather strip. Thin, but deliberate. A line maybe 6 inches across. I ran my finger over it and felt how deep it went, through paint, into the wood. Later that day, when I asked Jamie again, half hoping he'd say it was all just a weird joke, he just looked up from his cereal and said, "He likes to hide now, so you don't tell." I didn't ask what that meant. I didn't want to know. We stayed inside most of that week. I told our parents I wasn't feeling well. They were too busy to ask questions. I made excuses not to take Jamie back to the store, not to leave the house at all. But each night something new happened. First it was the doorbell, then the porch motion light flickering without reason, then came the scraping sounds. Soft at first, like twigs across the siding, then louder, closer. One night I heard something move across the roof. I was unraveling. I knew it. But it didn't feel like a story I was telling myself. It felt like something that had followed us, attached itself, and I didn't know why. Then Jamie started talking to it. At night I'd hear him whispering, not pretend play, not the way kids do with action figures or imaginary friends. These were full sentences, Conversations, pauses like he was listening. One night I cracked open his door. He was sitting up in bed facing the window. "No," he said softly. "She's not mean. She's just scared." A beat of silence. "I can't tell you. She said not to." That's when I stepped in. "Jamie," I said. "Who are you talking to?" He didn't flinch. He just turned and blinked at me. Curtains open too long. "He likes that window. He said you keep your eye closed them that night, and every night after." It all came to a head 2 days before school started back. My mom had driven Jamie to a doctor's appointment. I was home alone, trying to pretend everything was normal. I made lunch, cleaned up, even started prepping my backpack like none of this was real. Then the power went out. It wasn't storming, no wind, no crews on the street, just silence, like the whole world got unplugged. I grabbed the flashlight from under the sink and turned it on. That's when I saw him, standing in our backyard, not moving, not swaying, just watching the house. He wasn't blurry or ghostly. He was real, solid. Same hoodie, same pale, unreadable face. Only now he looked thinner, and there was dirt on his pants, something dark around his mouth. His hands hung too low, fingertips grazing his thighs. I dropped the flashlight. By the time I got it again and pointed it back at the yard, he was gone. I called the cops. They came out, took a report, walked the perimeter. No signs of forced entry, no footprints. Just me, shaking on the porch with a flashlight and a story no one believed. Jamie and I never talked about him again, not directly. But the week school started, Jamie left a sticky note on my pillow. In shaky handwriting it said, "Don't let him in, even if he looks like me." I kept that note for years, and I still lock my windows before the sun goes down, because I don't know what followed us out of that aisle. I just know it remembers, and it waits. There are things in life we can't always explain, moments that stretch beyond reason or logic. But often, the most important instinct we have is the one we too often ignore. When something feels wrong, it usually is. Whether it's a person, a place, or a presence, trust your gut and protect the ones who trust you. Because not everything that follows you can be seen on camera, and not everything that disappears stays gone. You don't plan on ending up in a guard shack. You don't sit through 4 years of college dreaming about graveyard shifts in a prefab box beside a warehouse that smells like burnt pallets and exhaust. But life doesn't really care about your plans. When I graduated from Georgia State with a degree in business marketing, I thought I'd hit at least a few interviews, maybe land a job with a startup downtown. Instead, I spent 6 months watching my savings dry up, eating ramen for dinner 5 nights a week and dodging calls from my landlord. My parents, old school Cuban, hardworking and never subtle, just said what they always said. "You made your bed." I couldn't stay with them again, not after last year's fight. So when I saw the job posting for night security at a Walmart distribution center out in Doraville, I clicked apply without thinking. $16.50 an hour. Benefits after 30 days. Midnight to 8 a.m. It wasn't glamorous, but it was something. Something I could point to when people asked what I was doing. Something to keep me from falling all the way off the map. At first the job was fine, monotonous, sure, but the silence became a kind of comfort. Most nights were spent logging truck entries, walking the lot with a flashlight, drinking terrible vending machine coffee, and watching grainy security feeds on a dusty monitor. No one asked questions. No one cared if I looked tired. Then, 3 weeks in, the guy I normally worked with, Rodney, a middle-aged vet who talked too much about fantasy football, went out on medical leave. That's when Parker showed up. Parker James, or at least that's what he said his name was. He was mid-30s, lean, with this sharp jawline and a scar that ran down the right side of his face like someone had tried to erase him and stopped halfway. Always wore the same beat-up jacket and carried an old metal thermos that looked like it had been through a war. I tried making small talk our first night. "So, Parker, you come from another security job?" He shook his head. Oil rigs. Out west. Oh, I said. That's different. Lots of silence out there, too. Then after a pause, he added, places where no one comes looking if you disappear. I laughed a little. He didn't. He wasn't rude, exactly, just distant. Like his mind was always 2 steps ahead of the moment. But over time, he opened up. A little. Told me he used to drive muscle cars back when gas was cheap. Loved Clint Eastwood movies. Once rigged his own home security system using parts from a junkyard and an old camcorder. Still, there was something off about him. He never checked in at the front desk, never clocked out. The supervisor just waved him through like he wasn't worth the trouble of paperwork. I figured he was one of those off-the-books guys. Someone with too much baggage for HR to handle, but too useful to let go. He saved my life the night the bullets came through the window. But I didn't know then just how deep that story went. Or how much danger followed him here. It was just after 1:30 a.m. on a Thursday when everything changed. Parker and I were sitting in the shack, watching the cameras. The night was unusually still. No trucks scheduled until 3. The lot was empty except for a few parked semis and the rows of yellow safety bollards that glowed under the floodlights. I remember the air smelled faintly like burnt oil and someone's half-smoked cigarette. The monitors flickered. A brief power surge, nothing major. Happens sometimes when a machine's charging on the dock. I stretched and stood to pour more coffee when Parker froze mid-sip. He was staring out the tiny bulletproof window above the desk. "You see that?" he said. "See what?" He didn't answer, just leaned in, squinting toward the far end of the lot near Dock 14. I followed his gaze, saw nothing at first, just shadows. Then out of nowhere, headlights flared on, high beams, bright, blinding. But the car didn't move. The engine didn't hum. No tires crunched gravel, just lights. Then Parker tackled me, hard. I hit the floor, elbow scraping the concrete. "What the hell, man?" Before I could finish, the window behind us shattered. Glass exploded inward. Something slammed into the wall above the desk, then another. The coffee pot exploded. Bullets. I barely had time to breathe. We ducked behind the desk. I could feel the sting of glass in my arm, blood trickling. Parker yanked a revolver from his backpack like it was second nature. "You brought a gun?" I shouted. "I don't leave home without it anymore," he muttered, loading it with practiced hands. Then a voice from outside, muffled but unmistakable. "Hand over McCabe, now." I turned to him. "Who the hell is McCabe?" Parker didn't answer, just clicked the cylinder into place and whispered, "Shoot to scare. Stay low. They don't." Then he was up, out the door, into the night, and just like that, he was gone. The gunfire stopped maybe a minute after Parker ran, but that minute felt like an hour. I stayed crouched behind the desk, heart pounding so hard I thought it might give out. Every creak of the wind outside sounded like footsteps. Every shadow on the monitors looked like someone coming back to finish what they started. I was covered in sweat and blood, my arm stinging from the glass. I didn't know what to do, didn't know if the shooter was still out there, didn't know if Parker was alive. At 1:46 a.m., I finally grabbed the shack phone and called it in. "Security breach," I said, trying to keep my voice level. "Warehouse. Shots fired. Guard shack. Doraville." The dispatcher asked me to stay on the line. I couldn't. My hand was shaking too badly. I dropped the receiver and curled into the corner with my knees pulled to my chest. For the first time in years, I thought about praying. When the police arrived, about 11 minutes later, they moved fast, guns drawn, lights flooding the lot. They swept the entire dock area and found nothing. No shooter, no vehicle, no casings, not even tire marks. Just shattered glass, a trashed security desk, and me, trembling in a blood-specked jacket. They asked me questions I didn't know how to answer. Did I see the shooter? No. Do I know anyone named McCabe? No. Was I sure I hadn't seen the license plate on the vehicle? There was no vehicle. There were just lights. And Parker. Except Parker was gone. One officer tried to track his phone using employee records. Nothing came up. Another asked me for his badge number. I didn't have it. When they checked the employee database, there was no Parker James listed under the security staff. Nothing filed with HR. No background check. No emergency contact. It was like he never existed. I told them what I knew. Oil rigs. Western movies. The way he always walked like he was expecting someone behind him. They took it all down, but looked unconvinced. A detective, older guy, thick accent, tie loosened halfway, pulled me aside later. "You sure he said his name was Parker James?" I nodded. That's what he told me. He glanced down at a notepad, officially just in chatter. "We think that was an alias. We've seen that name before. Not what kind of chatter." He looked up. "There's a man we've been watching for a while. Real name might be Donnie Maves. Ex-gang enforcer turned informant. Went off-grid 5 years ago. Word was he flipped on some big players out west." I felt my stomach sink. "So that voice, the guy yelling McCabe, he was after him?" "Most likely. And if that's true," he said, "you weren't the target." I didn't say it out loud, but the thought was loud in my head. What if they think I know where he is now? I lasted 4 more nights on the job. Each shift, I'd sit in that same guard shack, patched up but still bearing the marks of what happened. The broken window had been replaced, but you could still see the bullet dent in the filing cabinet and the cracked corner of the desk where Parker tackled me. The smell of burnt coffee never left. The other guards didn't ask questions. Most of them weren't even aware of the shooting. Corporate kept it quiet, called it an equipment malfunction in the weekly report. A safety memo about environmental awareness went out, like we were supposed to be on the lookout for stray raccoons or faulty forklifts. But I knew better. Parker had vanished like smoke. No phone, no trail, no trace. The more I thought about it, the more certain I became that he knew this would happen. The way he moved, the way he avoided the cameras, the way he never once looked surprised, like he'd been waiting for it, and I'd been pulled into his shadow without even knowing it. By the 5th night, I couldn't take it anymore. I handed in my badge to a sleepy supervisor who barely glanced at me. He said, chuckling, "Burned out already?" "Something like that," I said. I packed my apartment the next day and moved across town. Found a job with a print shop that paid less but didn't require looking over my shoulder. Still, sometimes at night, when the hallway's too quiet or the pipes creak just wrong, I'll hear it. A knock. Soft. Slow. Just once. Then silence. It's been 3 years since I left that job, and I still think about him sometimes. Parker, Donnie, whatever his real name was. I think about that look he gave me right before he ran. This flicker of guilt, or maybe regret. Not fear, not panic. More like he knew this was the end of the road, or maybe just the next stop. I've never told anyone the full story. Not my parents, not my friends. And definitely not anyone who might ask questions about a man who no longer exists on paper. But writing this down now, I think part of me just wants to remember him the way I saw him. Flawed, strange, maybe dangerous, but not evil. He could have let me die that night, but he didn't. He pulled me to the ground, got me out of the line of fire. That has to count for something. There's a part of me that hopes he made it, that he got far enough, found a cabin in the woods or a safe name in a new city. But deep down, I know better. People like him don't get to retire. They just disappear. Like ghosts with real scars and names no one remembers. Not every danger comes with warning signs. Sometimes it walks beside you, silent and unnoticed, until the moment it snaps into view. The people we meet carry stories we may never know, stories that can change ours forever. Trust your instincts. Pay attention, and never assume the quiet ones have nothing to run from. Because sometimes what they're running from might already be closer than you think. Long before I ever saw the man behind the bags, I already knew the garden center was different. It's quiet, for one thing. That kind of quiet that creeps in under fluorescent lights and makes every shift feel a little surreal. That Tuesday in October, I was working a shift I wasn't even supposed to take. Swapped out with Janelle so I wouldn't have to run into my ex. Yeah, I'll admit it. I was still avoiding her. Heartbreak clings to places like Walmart. You can't walk 2 aisles without bumping into ghosts. I worked part-time, mostly in the outdoor section, garden center, mulch, patio chairs, ceramic planters. Nothing glamorous, but it gave me space. Customers were fewer, co-workers left you alone, and I could just fade into the stacks of fertilizer and lawn gnomes and pretend I was anywhere else. It was close to 5 p.m. The sun was already low, casting long gray streaks across the concrete. Wind was picking up outside, rattling the chain-link fences stacked with birdseed and fake terracotta pots. I was alone, restocking the sale items left from the end of summer blowout, when I heard it. A soft rustle from behind the fertilizer wall. Could have been a raccoon. We'd had a few over the summer. One got into the Miracle Grow and nearly scared old Marvin from paint into retirement. I stepped around the corner, thought I'd find a squirrel or a loose bag leaking onto the pavement. But instead I saw him. A man crouched behind the bags of fertilizer like he'd fallen there. Torn hoodie, sunken cheeks, dirt smeared across his neck and jaw. His hands were shaking. Not twitching, not fidgeting, shaking, pale as printer paper, and barefoot. I stopped in my tracks. "Sir, you all right?" I asked, instinctively checking for a badge or any kind of uniform. Nothing. He was maybe 35, maybe older. Hard to tell. He looked like he hadn't slept in a week. He didn't answer right away, just kept muttering something under his breath, his eyes flicking upward to the ceiling over and over. Then he said, hoarse and low, "They're still up there, watching. Don't go near the ceiling lights." His hand shot out and grabbed my sleeve. I swear to God, it was like ice. "I'm gonna get someone, okay?" I said carefully. "Something? You might be hurt. You need water," or his eyes, milky, unfocused, locked on mine. Plastic panels. They know when you look away. "They see through the fixtures, he said. The eye radioed it in. By the time security showed up, the guy wasn't fighting. He let them lift him to his feet. Just kept mumbling. Said something about escaping the loop. About patterns in the roof tiles. I filled out the incident report like I was trained, checked the right boxes, talked to Rick from maintenance who'd helped carry him out. Then I went home, tried to shake it off. But the next day, something strange happened. I mentioned the whole thing to Sherry, the assistant manager on duty that night. "What man?" she asked. I laughed, thought she was joking. "The one who collapsed near the bags." I filed a report. Rick was there. Sherry blinked at me. "There's nothing under your name," she said. "Dream or something?" "You sure this wasn't yesterday?" Or her tone made me feel stupid. I even started to doubt myself. But I remembered that guy's grip, the way he looked up at the ceiling like it held something alive. You don't forget something like that, not unless something wants you to. Saturday rolled around and the garden center felt colder than usual. Not just from the weather, though the temperature had dipped, but something in the air, stillness. That kind of heaviness that makes you check over your shoulder even when you're alone. I was helping a new temp, Kendra, organize leftover patio chairs. She was all energy and bubblegum optimism, talking about starting college in the spring and how excited she was for Halloween. I wasn't much in the mood for small talk, but I nodded and smiled when it felt appropriate. When we hit a slow stretch in the shift, I decided to ask Rick from maintenance about what happened. Just to reassure myself, I wasn't losing my mind. "Hey Rick," I said. "You remember Tuesday night? That guy behind the fertilizer wall?" Rick looked up from his clipboard, then paused. "You mean the one that collapsed? Curled up like a baby? Yeah, I remember." My shoulders relaxed a little. "Report." Rick squinted. "What?" "Good, I thought I was going crazy. Sherry said there wasn't any. Wait. Which time are you talking about? He lowered the clipboard. Cam. That same guy showed up 2 years ago. Same exact spot. We had to call an ambulance. He kept whispering about things in the lights. Then he disappeared from the hospital that night. I stared at him, trying to process. No, this was 4 days ago. Rick frowned. You serious? I saw him, talked to him. His hoodie was torn at the shoulder, and he had a scar here. I pointed to my temple. Rick's face drained of color. Never forgot his feet. That's the same guy. Cam, that's the same guy. The barefoot guy. I laughed, but it came out dry and shaky. That's not possible. Rick didn't laugh. I know, but he never aged. Same voice, same look. I didn't sleep well that night. The fluorescent lights in my apartment flickered once around 3 a.m., and I couldn't stop thinking about that guy's voice, raspy and urgent. They see through it. Something inside me was starting to believe he wasn't just talking nonsense. By Monday, I couldn't get it out of my head. So I stayed late after my shift, long after the customers had left, and asked Ramon from security to show me the archived footage. I just want to check something, I told him. He raised an eyebrow. Looking for shrinkage claims? No, just personal. He didn't argue, just pulled up the timestamp from Tuesday. There I was, plain as day, stacking planters. Then I walked behind the fertilizer stack. But the man wasn't there. There was a shadow, small, low to the ground. It moved, barely, like it was breathing, but no figure, no crouched man, no contact, no grabbing my arm. Maybe the angle missed him, I offered, though I didn't believe it. Ramon rewound, zoomed in. You're alone, man, he said. Camera doesn't lie. I left without another word. Didn't sleep that night either. The next day, on a hunch, I asked Ramon to pull up the live feed of the same camera. That shadow? Still there. Not moving now, just a dark blur, like a burn in the film. And when I looked up at the garden center's actual ceiling, the light above that corner flickered. Just once. The following week, everything got worse. I kept thinking about what the man said. Don't go near the ceiling lights. That phrase stuck with me like a song you can't shake. I started paying more attention to the fixtures at work. In the pharmacy aisle, one panel buzzed slightly. In the snack section, one of the bulbs dimmed each time I passed under it. Maybe it was paranoia, or maybe I was starting to notice what he noticed. I brought it up again with Sherry. Do you ever notice the lights? Like flickering, patterns? She stared at me like I'd grown another head. Cam, I think you need a break. She wasn't wrong. I hadn't been sleeping, barely eating. I was walking through the store like a ghost, just waiting for that flicker to happen again. By Thursday, I started avoiding that corner of the garden center, told Kendra I had a bad knee, made her do most of the heavy lifting. She rolled her eyes but didn't question it. Then one night I saw him again, only for a second, through the reflection in the sliding glass door. I was restocking plastic rakes and turned toward the glass, and there he was. Same hoodie, same scar, same shadow clinging to his back like a second body. I spun around. He was gone. I handed in my resignation that Friday. I didn't give much reason. Just said I needed to reassess my direction. Sherry looked half relieved, half worried. Ramon shook my hand and told me to get some sun. Rick just nodded like he understood more than he said. Now I work at a local hardware store. No ceiling lights like those. No shadows behind bags. Just paint swatches and polite retirees looking for caulk. But I still shop at Walmart sometimes. Hard to avoid it. And every now and then when I'm walking through the detergent aisle or frozen pizzas, I'll look up. Just for a second. And if the lights flicker, just barely, I feel something cold pass through me. Like someone watching. Sometimes the most ordinary places hold the deepest darkness, not because they're haunted by monsters, but because they bury what we choose to forget. When we ignore the signs, when we dismiss what doesn't fit, we create shadows where people disappear, and eventually, we become part of them. Pay attention to the flickers. Some warnings don't come twice. It's strange how easily the sacred can be forgotten. I've served as the parish priest at St. Helena's Church in South Columbus for over 12 years. In that time, I've watched the pews grow emptier and the hymnals gather dust. Faith, it seems, doesn't draw a crowd the way it used to. These days, the only regulars are a few elderly parishioners, a couple of families trying to raise their kids right, and those who drift in when the weight of the world pushes too hard. I'm not a mystic. I've spent my life holding the tension between the divine and the real. But in December 2020, something happened that I still don't fully understand. It started with a confession, an ordinary moment in my line of work, but one I'll remember for the rest of my life. It was a Tuesday just after 7 p.m. Snow was falling lightly outside, the kind that never sticks but still slows everything down. I was finishing evening prayer, ready to lock up, when the door creaked open. A man stepped inside, wrapped in a thin jacket, his eyes darting like he was being followed. He didn't give a name, just sat down, crossed himself awkwardly, and whispered, "Confess something. I don't know if it's a sin or something worse. I need to." He told me he worked the night stock shift at the Walmart up the street, High Street, near the freeway. Said he was unloading a damaged pallet behind the pharmacy section when he found something tucked deep inside a box that didn't belong. Not merchandise, not packaging. A small glass vial, wrapped in what he described as velvet cloth. Old, hand-stitched, with a faded cross. I figured it was medical, he said, like some discontinued sample or old shipment. But when he touched it, he said he felt a tightness in the air, a kind of static tension, like the world paused for a moment, and then he saw her. A woman, he said. Long black dress, face covered by a veil. She doesn't walk, just hovers near the ceiling. I only see her in reflections, security monitors, metal shelves, freezer doors. I've heard confessions shaped by drugs, trauma, mental illness. But there was something in his tone, shaken, raw, terrified, that settled into me. He looked up, desperate. "Father, I can't sleep. I see her even when I blink. I need you to take it. The cloth. The vial. I'll drop it off here tomorrow night." I told him I would, not because I believed, but because I saw how much he needed to let it go. I offered prayer. He refused. He never came back. 2 nights later, I got a call from Edna, one of my parishioners. 74 years old, works part-time cleaning overnight at that same Walmart. Always faithful, always practical. But that night, her voice trembled. "Father, something's not right here," she whispered. "There's a cross, marked in wax, right behind the pet food shelves. Wasn't there yesterday?" And one of the young guys screamed when he saw it. Said it was glowing. Glowing. I told her I'd come by. She didn't want to stay. Said she'd meet me outside. The store was still open, though quiet. Holiday shopping crowds had thinned. I met with Carl, the night manager, young, serious, polite, the kind who never gets enough sleep. He was skeptical, but let me in. The back storage area near the pet section had a strange smell, like rust and damp stone. On the floor, barely visible under the overhead lights, was a wax mark, a cross, thick and deliberate, like someone had poured melted candle wax by hand. Next to it, a piece of deep red velvet cloth, frayed at the edges. The vial was gone, but I recognized the kind of stitching used for old liturgical garments. It looked older than it should have been, a relic from another time. We tried scrubbing it, Carl said. "Nothing gets the wax off, it's like it burned into the tile." I asked if he knew the man who brought it in, the one who confessed. Carl looked confused, checked the shift logs. No one matching that description was scheduled. No badge number, no employee file, nothing. "I see dozens of guys come and go," he said. "Don't know, Father. We don't track that kind of stuff. But if someone left something like that here..." Later that night, I brought the cloth back to the rectory and placed it in a sealed box. I didn't pray over it. I didn't touch it again. but when I walked past the chapel mirror on the way to bed, I thought I saw the edge of a black veil drifting near the ceiling. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning I began digging. Old records, diocesan archives, folklore databases. I wasn't looking for proof. I was looking for a name, a connection, something I could use to put this thing back in the ground. And I found her. Alice Kern, a domestic servant at Hales Abbey in England, early 1600s. She worked in the kitchens. No family, no formal education. 1 year before she disappeared, a sacred relic went missing from the Abbey's reliquary. A small vial, encased in glass and velvet, containing what was believed to be a drop of Christ's blood. Only a few knew about it. Hidden for protection during a time of unrest, they accused her of theft, of sacrilege, and witchcraft. She vanished into the woods before the arrest, never found. But the legend followed. Some claimed she fled to the colonies, that she carried the relic with her, that she died cursing any who would misuse the blood of Christ. I wanted to dismiss it. Stories twist over time. But the cloth, the wax cross, the woman in black, what if it wasn't just myth? That week, 3 Walmart employees quit. One claimed to hear a woman whispering scripture over the intercom after the store closed. Another said his dog refused to enter the bedroom after he brought home an unopened box from the pharmacy. And Edna? She packed up and moved to Tennessee to stay with her niece. She wouldn't return my calls. Carl called me again that Friday. Someone broke the lock on the back stairwell. No signs of theft, but the cameras glitched. We lost footage from 2 to 2:13 a.m. I asked if the cloth was still in the office. He hesitated. We left it where you found it. Figured it wasn't our business. I went to the store that night. The wax mark had faded, but not completely. Just like a scar. I placed a rosary over it, said the prayer to Saint Michael, burned incense, more out of desperation than ritual, and then I burned the cloth. In the rectory garden, behind the chapel, under winter stars. It caught quickly, turned to smoke and ash, but as it burned, the wind shifted suddenly, hard and sharp, and the candles inside the chapel blew out. I haven't seen the veil since, but I still think about her, about the possibility that something sacred was lost, and someone tried to carry it where it was never meant to go. I still shop at that Walmart, not often, only when I need something specific. When I do, I walk quickly past the pharmacy aisle. I keep my eyes forward. I don't look up. Once I made the mistake of glancing at the CCTV feed near the front desk. Just a casual glance. But in the reflection above my shoulder, near the light above the freezer aisle, I saw it again. A faint figure, a woman in black, watching, waiting. The store has had no official report since the wax is gone. No one else seems to remember the man who made that confession. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe I wanted to believe in something again. But I know what I saw, what I held. Faith isn't about certainty. It's about what you do when the lights flicker, when the silence gets heavy, when something ancient wakes up in the cracks of modern life. And if that relic was real, if some small piece of the divine had been twisted and passed along through time until it ended up behind plastic pill bottles and gift cards, then all I can do is pray. Not for salvation, but for restraint. Because not everything holy was meant to be found. Some relics are better left buried. Not every sacred thing belongs in a world that's forgotten how to be reverent. When we treat the divine like debris, when we package it, store it, forget it, we invite something ancient to remember us instead. And when it does, we might not be ready for what looks back through the veil. Back in high school, I'd breeze through Walmart in Silverdale without thinking twice. Late nights, early mornings, it didn't matter. I'd grab junk food, wander the electronics, maybe text a friend while standing in line. The store was just part of life, bland, brightly lit, and safe. It was a place you went to pick up shampoo and leave without remembering a single detail. But everything feels different when you're older, living alone, and returning to a town you swore you'd never come back to. It was early spring. The kind of March evening where the rain doesn't fall heavy, just hangs in the air like something undecided. I'd just started a new graphic design contract downtown, and I was living in a one-bedroom apartment off Buckland Hill Road, quiet enough to hear your upstairs neighbor sneeze. Not that I minded. I'd picked the place for solitude. That night, I left work a little after 6. Long day, lots of revisions, and my fridge was depressingly empty. I needed paper towels, dish pods, and maybe something sweet. Walmart was 10 minutes out of the way, but I figured I'd be in and out. No big deal. I parked under one of the taller security poles, the ones with those round white cameras and bluish LED lights that make everything look like it's part of a crime scene. I always park under those now. Habit, I guess. The store was about what you'd expect for a rainy weekday night. Sparse, quiet, families with half-full carts, tired parents in sweatshirts, kids begging for cereal, a couple elderly shoppers, one woman in a scrub top flipping through clearance candles. I slipped in my earbuds, no music playing, just white noise low enough to stay alert, and headed straight to household goods. Nothing unusual, just that dull retail glow, the smell of rubber and floor wax, and my own mental checklist: paper towels, Cascade pods, maybe some peanut M&Ms. I was halfway down the cleaning aisle when I noticed the man. He was maybe in his late 30s, early 40s, worn black windbreaker, brown beard that hadn't been trimmed in a while. His cart was empty. That stood out more than anything. Just an empty, echoey thing he pushed, like it gave him permission to be there. At first, I thought nothing of it. People wander, right? But then I realized he'd been behind me in the snacks aisle too. Same blank face, same pace. Like he was shopping without shopping. I chalked it up to coincidence. The store isn't exactly a maze, but after circling back to pick up tissues near the pharmacy end cap, I cut across to electronics, more out of habit than need. And there he was again, standing by the phone accessories, staring forward. Same cart, still empty, still pretending not to look at me. I remember slowing down, pretending to scroll through my phone just to give myself something to do. I wasn't panicked, not yet, just uneasy. That feeling like you're being watched, even when there's no obvious reason. I walked fast toward home goods, candles, picture frames, aisle rugs, somewhere quieter, somewhere with more light. That's when my stomach dropped. He was already there, standing by the wax warmers like he'd been waiting. I felt my body tense. Maybe it was a trick of timing. Maybe I was just seeing what I expected. I pulled out my phone and turned the screen off, mirror mode. Tilted it just slightly to check behind me. He was still there, close, too close. I turned to leave fast. That's when I heard it. Allison. A whisper, not loud, not dramatic, just close. I whipped around, heart thudding. No one, just wax warmers and aisle lights, and him, turned away now, examining a random box like it meant something. That's when the fear became real. He knew my name. There's something specific about fear that hits you in a retail store. It's not the full-blown panic of an alleyway or a locked door. It's quieter, slower, like your body is trying to figure out if it's allowed to freak out in a place where nothing bad ever really happens. But I knew what I heard. My name, soft, deliberate. Not a shout, not a coincidence. Someone in that aisle knew me. I didn't want to make a scene. Honestly, I didn't even know how. I just walked, fast, straight toward the front of the store. I remember passing a woman holding a storage bin and a teenage cashier leaning against a cart corral. Everything felt normal. Too normal. The self-checkout area was half full. I scanned my things. Paper towels, detergent pods, a bag of pretzels I didn't even remember grabbing, and paid without looking up. I didn't want to know if he was behind me again. The receipt printed. As I stepped forward toward the exit doors, I spotted him one more time. No cart this time. No pretending. He was just standing near the coin machine by customer service, hands in his pockets, watching, not browsing, not distracted, watching me. I forced myself to stay calm, even as adrenaline buzzed up my spine. I approached a security guard nearby, a guy in his 20s, arms crossed, checking his phone. "Excuse me," I said, trying to sound casual. "Store. He's just over there by the... I think a man's been following me through the..." I turned to point. The man was gone, not walking away, not blending into the crowd. Just gone. The security guy looked mildly annoyed. "Where is he now?" I don't know," I said. "He was right there." "Did he say anything to you?" "He whispered my name. I don't know how he knew it." He raised an eyebrow. "Do you know him?" "No." He gave a half shrug. "There's not much we can do." Could have been a coincidence. Might have just left. If he didn't do anything, he wasn't unkind. Just tired. Probably used to dealing with weird complaints. I nodded and mumbled a thank you, even though my hands were starting to shake. Outside, the rain had picked up. Not heavy, just that steady northwest drizzle that soaks you without warning. My car was close, thank God, and I walked quickly, scanning the lot. Nobody followed me. I unlocked the car, got in, and slammed the door. Locked it, double-checked the back seat. My heart was still racing. I put the receipt in the console, started the engine. That's when I saw him again, across the lot, 2 rows over, sitting in a black Honda, lights off, not moving, just watching. He wasn't pretending now, no disguise. He sat there in the dark with that same empty stare. No phone, no one else in the car, just him. Like he was waiting to see if I noticed. I didn't even back out properly. I yanked the wheel, rolled over the curb slightly, and took off toward the far exit of the parking lot. I didn't go straight home. I drove around. Down random residential streets I barely knew anymore. Past the elementary school, through the dark corners of old neighborhoods I used to ride through on my bike. I checked my mirrors every few blocks. My heart didn't slow down until I hit the turn-in for my apartment complex. I parked under the lights, sat there, waited. Nothing. But I didn't sleep that night. Not really. And I didn't go back to Walmart for weeks. It was a Thursday night when I got the message. 2:17 a.m. I'd finally fallen asleep on the couch after hours of tossing and turning, phone clutched in my hand like a shield. I remember the buzz woke me up, just a single vibration. I squinted at the screen. Messenger notification. You forgot your receipt. No name, no mutual friends, just a gray silhouette and a message that stopped my breath cold. I opened it. The picture came with it. It was me. Standing in the candle aisle at Walmart. My head turned slightly, face visible, eyes cast downward. I remembered that exact moment. I'd just started to walk away after hearing the whisper. The photo was taken from no more than 6 feet behind. I dropped the phone. It slid under the coffee table. I didn't pick it up again until morning. By then, the message was gone. The profile had vanished. Not deleted, just scrubbed clean. Facebook gave me nothing but a user not found error. I reported it anyway. I spent the entire next day trying to stay calm. I told myself it could have been a prank. Maybe someone recognized me. Maybe I'd walked past someone from school and didn't remember. But that didn't explain how they knew my name, or why they sent the photo at 2 a.m., or why it looked like it was taken from inches away. I went to the police. I showed them the screenshot I'd managed to save. The officer was polite, but not hopeful. No threats were made, he said. No actual physical contact, no plate number, no name. But he followed me, I said. He knew my name. The officer nodded sympathetically. And you did the right thing coming here. But unless he makes a direct threat, there's not much we can charge. So I filed the report, signed a form, left the station feeling more exposed than before. I changed every password, made all my social media private, deleted old posts, untagged photos. I bought a new deadbolt, reinforced the one already on my door. I ordered pepper spray. I stopped using earbuds in public, and I started looking. constantly. Every aisle, every parking lot, every car idling too long. Because I had this awful creeping feeling that the next time I saw him, I wouldn't get a warning first. Spring came fast that year. Rain-soaked sidewalks and cherry blossoms smearing pink across the sidewalks. You'd think something as normal as sunshine and petals would ease my nerves. It didn't. I avoided Walmart for weeks. Drove past it, stared at the front entrance like it might look back. I started going to the Safeway on the other side of town, even though it was more expensive and half the size. The cashier there, a girl with thick eyeliner and a slow drawl, asked why I always paid in cash. Long story, I told her once. She didn't ask again, but I couldn't avoid everything. There were still errands. Still nights when I forgot toilet paper or coffee filters or something stupid like light bulbs. One Tuesday, I caved. Told myself it had been nearly a month. The man probably moved on. Maybe he was just some sick prankster. I'd let fear turn into ritual, and rituals had their own weight. So I went back. I went early, just after work, when the place was busy with moms and older folks and teenagers hanging out by the soda fridges. I told myself I wouldn't take long, just grab what I needed and leave. At first everything seemed fine, until I walked past the electronics section and noticed the security camera monitor up above. They have them there, mounted near the ceiling, looping a live feed of every corner of the store, and in one of the camera panes a reflection of myself walking. And behind me, about 10 feet back, was him. No cart, just walking slowly, steadily, watching me, again. I froze, not visibly but inside, like all the oxygen had vanished. I turned around. He wasn't there. No one was behind me, no one even remotely close. But he'd been there, in the footage. I saw it. I wheeled around and walked fast to the customer service desk. The same bored security guard was there, sipping from a giant plastic cup. "Hey," I said, might be tailing me again. "Can someone review camera footage from the last few minutes? I think someone." He looked at me and blinked. "You the girl who came in a few weeks ago?" I nodded. He hesitated, then pulled out a clipboard and wrote something. A manager to pull specific timestamps. "We can take a look, but I need, please, just check the aisle monitors right now." He was just behind me. He humored me. Walked to the wall monitor, toggled through feeds. Nothing. Just me, alone. No man, no shadow, no strange figure in black. The footage had already looped to the next cycle. He looked at me like I'd made it up. I didn't argue, just walked out. The air outside was cool and damp. I moved quickly toward my car, checked the rows. There was a car parked near the end of the lot. A black Honda. Same one. It wasn't running, just sitting there, angled toward the exit. Empty. I waited in my car until another family came out with a cart. I pulled out behind them, using them as cover, and didn't relax until I hit the lights past the strip mall. It's been 7 months. I've changed my schedule, my phone number, my car. I moved apartments, paid extra for a second-story unit, and picked a building with a gated parking lot. I tell people it's for the view, but I still feel him. Not every day, not even every week, but just enough to keep me alert. A black car across the street, a stranger at the gas station who lingers too long. Once I got a friend request on a new Instagram account with no posts and no followers. The name was just a period, nothing else. I didn't open it. I blocked it. But I knew. I know. The police followed up twice. Nothing actionable. No plates. No face. The Facebook profile had routed through an overseas IP address. I've thought about getting a gun. I've thought about getting a dog. But what would that fix? Would it undo the feeling of being watched every time I walk to my car? Would it stop me from flinching when I see someone wearing a black jacket in a grocery store? No. Because the truth is, he's already in here, in my routine, in my habits, in the way I glance over my shoulder without realizing. He doesn't have to show up again. He already changed me. I haven't told my parents. They're in Port Townsend now and they'd panic. I don't want pity, I don't want fear passed down, I want normal back, but I know now that once someone invades your sense of safety, there's no real going back. One day I found the receipt, the one from that first night, tucked inside a book I hadn't touched in months. I swear I hadn't saved it, but there it was, crisp, folded, and on the back of it, written in the same sharp mechanical scrawl as the Facebook message, I never left. I burned it on my patio grill, didn't sleep that night. I'm better now, mostly. I carry a key alarm. I take different routes. I don't wear earbuds when I walk. I always sit facing the door at restaurants. Sometimes I feel crazy, but I'm not, because someone out there still knows my name. In a world where our lives are increasingly visible, on screens, in photos, in fleeting digital traces, our sense of privacy is more fragile than ever. What happened to me could happen to anyone. A stranger doesn't need to break into your home to infiltrate your world. Sometimes all it takes is one glance, one whisper, one photo. Trust your instincts. Don't dismiss fear just because others do. Be loud, be cautious, be firm when something feels wrong. You're not paranoid for protecting yourself, because you may never know how close someone's truly watching, until it's too late. You learn quickly as a single mom working 2 jobs that quiet moments are rare and precious. Evenings when I can take my daughter Ava somewhere simple, just to see her face light up, are golden, and yet, they can also be the loneliest, filled with the noisy silence of my own worries. October in Miami doesn't mean leaves and pumpkins. It means humidity and bright lights, even after sundown. But that Saturday evening felt like fall to me anyway. Maple-scented candles were already out in stores and the air seemed softer, cooler. I just finished my shift at the diner and told Ava we'd stop by Walmart so she could look at the dolls. Her face, bright with hope, made me forget how drained I was. Her small hand squeezing mine. I felt the weight of her trust and I let go of my exhaustion, even for a little while. Just to look, she promised. We arrived around 7:15 p.m. The store was humming, families with carts piled high, that endless audio loop of announcements and store music, the bright fluorescent lights that make everything feel unreal. I gave Ava a few dollars, reminding her of our look, not buy deal. She ran ahead like she'd hit treasure, her curls bouncing, and I followed more slowly, purse tight under my arm, my eyes flicking to my phone every few seconds. The toy aisle was a riot of colors, action figures, board games, stuffed animals. But Ava went straight to the dolls. She crouched by 2 plastic princess dolls, her face glowing like she'd found a friend. I let her look while I scanned the aisle, just in case, because I knew what the silence of fatigue could hide. It was then that I saw him, standing near the end of the aisle. Mid-40s, paint-splattered jeans, dirty sneakers, hands at his sides, no cart or basket. He was a single figure in the crowd, but his eyes were on Ava. His gaze was too steady, too focused, not the glance of a passerby. It felt calculated. My chest tightened. I cleared my throat. Ava, sweetie, Mom's thirsty. Let's find water, okay? The man didn't move. He just smiled. A slow, unnatural smile that sent a cold shiver through me. And then he spoke, stepping forward. "Pretty kid," he said. My lungs locked. My instincts shouted danger, but my lips moved first. "Excuse me?" He tilted his head like he was assessing me. I said, "She's cute. Looks like my niece." "Thanks, but no thanks," I said low. I bent to gather Ava's doll box. She looked up, worried. I didn't answer her question, I just said, "Time to go." I slipped my card into my pocket and moved briskly toward the crafts aisle, Ava's grip tight in mine. We looped past shelves of colored paper and glue sticks. 10 minutes later, I loaded cough syrup and toothpaste onto the conveyor belt. I decided then to let Ava keep the doll, $12.48, well worth the piece it brought. At the checkout, the cashier, a girl with purple hair and bright eyeliner, scanned our items. I whispered to her, Can someone from security walk us to the exit? There's a man we'd rather not run into again. She froze beneath her bangs, then nodded and pressed a button under the register. I bought a bottle of water for Ava, comfort in case we rushed out. We picked up the doll and walked forward, footsteps echoing between other carts. I checked over my shoulder. No man in sight. But as we neared the front door, there he was, 2 rows over. No cart, no movement, just standing there, leaning slightly forward, watching. I pressed my hand against Ava's back. She squeezed me back. I motioned to the purple-haired cashier. Security? Without a word, Ava reached for the doll with both hands. The cashier didn't smile again. 20 seconds later, a disabled access vest approached us. He offered a silent nod and walked beside us to the exit. We stepped into the parking lot together. The evening air was steamy, benevolent, but it couldn't mask the chill creeping over me, then pounding footsteps from behind. Not fast, but deliberate. My heart nearly stopped. I tightened my grip on the doll box and straightened my shoulders. As the vested employee slowed to match our pace, I barely turned and whispered, "Thank you." He nodded before speeding off, disappearing into the clash of carts and chatter. We didn't stop until we reached the Civic where I'd pulled in earlier that night. I unlocked the door, swallowed hard, and didn't let go of those keys until I snapped them inside the ignition. Ava climbed in, still clutching her new doll. I locked the doors, backed out, and waited until we crossed the parking lot threshold before breathing again. That night, every time I passed a Walmart sign or the glow of a store lamp through the rain, I felt her. That man's grin, his eyes on my daughter, his slow footstep after ours. We got home a little after 8, and I still hadn't shaken the feeling. You know the one, like someone still following, even when you're alone in your own apartment, deadbolt locked, chain on. I made sure both were secure before I let Ava put the doll on the couch and run to brush her teeth. She was talking to the doll like it had always been hers. I let her name it, sing to it, even tuck it into a towel on the couch. Because behind her joy, I saw the hesitation. That same shadow of awareness in her eyes I hoped she was too young to recognize. I went into the bathroom and stared at myself for a full minute. My uniform smelled like fry oil, my hair was a mess, and I looked like I hadn't slept in 3 days, which was probably true. But none of that mattered. What mattered was that a stranger watched my kid, followed her, smiled like he'd already made some kind of choice. After Ava fell asleep in my bed, I wasn't letting her sleep alone that night. I sat on the edge of the mattress scrolling through my phone. I didn't know what I was looking for. Maybe reassurance. Maybe faces. I went to the store's Facebook page, wondering if anyone had posted about a guy hanging around. Nothing. No posts. No mentions. Then around midnight, I called the store myself. A manager answered. Woman in her 40s, sounded tired but sharp. I gave her the short version. I was there around 7:15 with my daughter. There was a man watching her in the toy aisle, paint on his jeans, no cart, no kids. He followed us. Silence on the other end for a few seconds. Then she cleared her throat. Ma'am, can I ask, was he wearing a gray hoodie under the jeans jacket? I think so. You know him? She exhaled slowly. He's been here before, 3 times this week, always in toys, no purchases, no kids. Why is he still allowed in the store? We've called security before. He doesn't touch anything, doesn't steal, doesn't talk to staff. But he lingers, and unless he breaks a rule. I closed my eyes, trying to steady my breath. She continued, her voice lower now, up again. I'll file a report for you. I can flag his presence if he shows I thanked her, hung up, and stared into the dark living room for what felt like an hour. I knew what I had to do. That next morning, I used what little was left on my debit card and bought a better lock online. One of those ones with a keypad and deadbolt. I picked up pepper spray too. I hadn't carried one since college. But this was different. That man hadn't wanted to talk. He wasn't curious. He was waiting. I took Ava to school Monday morning. pretending everything was normal. But when I looked at her through the rearview mirror, brushing her little doll's hair and humming to herself, I realized something. She wasn't pretending anymore. She was scared, not of the dark, not of the man, but of the way her mom had looked when she said, "We need to leave, now." Kids notice more than we think, and even if they can't name it, they feel danger. That night, when I tucked her in again, this time with her in her own bed, I kissed her forehead and whispered, "No one is ever going to hurt you, baby, I promise." She didn't answer. She just pulled the covers up to her chin and whispered, "Don't let him find us." I stayed awake until 2. Every time a car passed outside, I sat up and looked through the blinds. It was a long, quiet night, but not quiet enough, because just after 2:30 I got a text from an unknown number. No message, just a photo. It was a picture of the toy aisle, the very one we had been in, empty, but I knew the angle. It had been taken from the same place that man had stood. I didn't sleep after that. I stared at the photo on my screen until my eyes burned. My brain kept trying to make it logical. Maybe a prank, maybe some cruel joke, but there was no explanation that made it better. Someone had taken a picture of the same spot in the toy aisle, and whoever it was had my number. I sat at the kitchen table with the phone lit up, just breathing. No name, no message, just the photo. I didn't want to scare Ava, so I turned my phone off and shoved it in the drawer. Then I checked the locks again, walked the perimeter of the apartment, and ended up sitting in the hallway just outside her door until the sun came up. By the time I dropped her off at school, I had made a decision. I filed a police report. The officer was polite but distracted. His eyes glanced at the screen of my phone, the printed photo I brought, then up at me. "Ma'am, it's unnerving, sure, but he didn't touch your kid. He didn't send a threat. No physical harm, no criminal trespassing, no clear identity. There's not a lot we can do right now." I asked if they could at least trace the number. "Unless he keeps contacting you or commits a crime, a trace won't go far. Block it. And call us if anything escalates." That was the word that stuck with me. Escalates. So far, he hadn't done anything illegal. Just watched. Just smiled. Just let me know he was still watching. Back at work that afternoon, I was a zombie behind the counter. Customers blurred together. Orders repeated. My coworker, Jorge, had to nudge me twice to get my attention. "You okay, Melly?" I tried to laugh it off. Didn't sleep much. "You get that lock you talked about?" "Yeah. And pepper spray. Want me to walk you to your car tonight?" That stopped me for a second. Normally I'd brush it off. I've always been the tough one, the "I got it, Mom." But I looked at him and said, "Actually, yeah, that'd be good." When my shift ended, Jorge walked me out. The parking lot was nearly empty except for a few late-night diners waiting by the entrance. That's when I noticed the same beat-up silver sedan from Walmart. Same dent on the side. Same rusted rearview mirror. Parked across the street. Lights off. I didn't say anything. Didn't run. Just unlocked my car and climbed in, breathing carefully, pretending not to notice. Jorge gave me a look. "You see him again?" I nodded. "I think so. Take a different route home. I'll drive behind you a bit." We didn't talk much on the drive. He peeled off after I made the second turn into my neighborhood. I checked every mirror, every streetlight. No headlights behind me. Still, I didn't go straight home. I circled the block twice. I parked on the far end of the lot. I waited. Only when I was sure I was alone did I climb the stairs and slip inside. I locked the door, checked the windows, tucked Ava in again. And then I cried. Not loud, not ugly. Just this slow, quiet release I hadn't allowed myself all week. I cried for how small I felt. For how easy it was for someone to get that close. For how close they still were. Around midnight, my phone vibrated again. A new number. This time, the message was simple. You shouldn't let her walk ahead of you. I stared at those words for a full minute, hand trembling, pulse roaring in my ears. He had seen us that night in the store. When Ava had run ahead, he had been close enough to watch, to remember. I turned the ringer off and tucked the phone under my mattress. Then I climbed into bed next to my daughter. I didn't close my eyes once. The next morning, I kept Ava home from school. I told her it was a special day off. We had waffles in our pajamas and played with her new doll. She named it Lucy and gave it the tiniest paper crown she made with glitter glue. I smiled and played along, but underneath I was unraveling. I sat by the window with my coffee, pretending to scroll my phone, really watching the street for that car, for that face. I called Walmart again. This time I asked for the store manager, not customer service. A man named Reggie picked up. He sounded tired, but he listened. I told him everything, about the man by the dolls, about the parking lot, the picture I'd been sent. There was a pause. I know who you're talking about, he finally said. Always alone, never buys anything. He's been in here 3 times that I've seen. Did anyone report him? Not officially. Loss prevention walked him out last week, but he didn't break any rules. Just gave people the creeps. He followed my daughter. He knew her name. Another pause. I'll pull footage, he said, and I'll file a report with corporate. I'm sorry this happened to you. It's not the first time someone's used our store to... He didn't finish the sentence. I thanked him, hung up, then started searching online. Cameras, motion detectors, GPS tags for Ava's backpack. I bought 3 different things by noon. Same-day delivery. I didn't care what it cost. That night I taught Ava a new game. We called it Look Twice. We practiced noticing parked cars, counting exits, recognizing the sound of my ringtone. She thought it was just another weird mom game. I didn't tell her it was for survival. When I tucked her in that night, she looked up at me and asked, "Is the doll man gone now?" I smiled, lied. "Yeah, baby, he's gone." But I still hadn't blocked the new number. I wanted to know if he'd try again. Needed to be ready. At 2:44 a.m. he did. This time it was a voicemail, no words, just the sound of breathing, slow, measured, like someone lying down, close to a mic, close to something, or someone. I replayed it 3 times before deleting it. I called the police again that morning. They still couldn't do much, but I could. I took a few hours off work, left Ava with my sister and drove to the parking lot behind the Walmart. I parked, waited, watched. An hour passed, then another. Finally, I saw him. Same paint-splattered jeans, same limp walk. He didn't go inside, just walked around the side of the building and stood behind the carts near the emergency exit, like he was waiting. I called the non-emergency line. This is the 3rd time I filed a report. I have a visual now. He's here right now. This time the tone changed. Officers arrived in 10 minutes. Quiet, no sirens. They questioned him, pulled him aside, took down his name. Apparently, he'd been arrested before, for loitering near schools, for trespassing in public parks after dark. No priors on paper that mattered. But they asked him to leave, warned him. I sat in my car, heart racing. He glanced at me as they walked him toward a cruiser. He didn't fight, didn't yell, just turned his head slowly and smiled. That smile. Like he knew something I didn't. I waited until he was out of sight before I let myself breathe again. Weeks passed, no messages, no sightings. Ava started laughing more again, sleeping through the night. I let her go back to school and even said yes when she asked to go to the park. But I never let her run ahead. I never left my phone volume off. And I never stepped inside a Walmart without checking every aisle first. Then, one rainy afternoon while grabbing a prescription after work, I saw something. A little girl, maybe 5, walking alone by the toy section, clutching a pink stuffed bear. Her mom was nowhere in sight. I felt it rise in me. That pulse. That instinct. Then I saw him. Not the same man, not paint jeans, but the posture was the same. Standing too still, watching too long, hands in his pockets. The mom appeared a second later, shouting the girl's name. She scooped her up. The man looked away, shuffled off. I walked out without my prescription, because it wasn't about him anymore. Not really. It was about all the versions of him, the watchers, the ones who know how to stay invisible just long enough, the ones who understand how no law gets broken if no words are said, no touch is made, no threat spoken aloud. Sometimes the threat is simply being seen, and now I see them too. Every aisle, every street. Every time I tuck Ava in, I watch the shadows on the wall a little longer. Maybe that's what being a mother is, loving something so fiercely that the whole world turns into a threat assessment. But it's also knowing how to keep them safe anyway, even when you're scared, even when no one else sees what you do. Because someone has to be the one who looks twice, every time. Trust your instincts, especially when it comes to your safety and the safety of your loved ones. We're often taught to be polite, to not cause a scene, to give people the benefit of the doubt. But when something feels off, it usually is. Speak up, ask for help, protect your space. Because not every danger announces itself with a weapon or a threat. Sometimes it walks quietly, smiles often, and waits for silence to become permission. It started with a walk-in shift and a headache. I was 22, working part-time in the bakery section of a Walmart supercenter in Hemet, California. I was also trying to hold together a GPA at the local community college, navigate financial aid bureaucracy, and most days just stay out of my family's orbit. I hadn't seen my dad since Thanksgiving. That night ended in shouting, slammed doors, and a text that simply read, "Don't come back if you can't respect this house." I didn't. My friend Bryce had an extra room near campus. I threw my duffel in the corner, picked up extra shifts, and told myself I'd figure it out later. It wasn't pretty, but it was mine. That Friday in March felt like any other. I clocked in at 5:59 p.m. sharp, tied my apron, and started rearranging the refrigerated cake display. Some kid had smashed the corner of a strawberry whip into the shelf, and the writing looked like a 4-year-old had used sidewalk chalk to spell happy birthday. I was elbow deep in frosting wipes when I heard him. That voice. Loud, impatient. "You're not listening." I said no chocolate. "She's allergic, damn it." I froze. My body knew it before my brain did. I turned, and there he was, Dad, still in his work boots and a dusty flannel, barking at some poor teenage associate who looked like he wanted to evaporate. He hadn't changed much. Still walked like he owned the room, even when the room wasn't his. Still had that same hard edge in his voice, like every word had to fight its way out. He didn't see me at first, but I saw the contents of his cart, streamers, paper plates, a deflated balloon set with happy birthday and glitter, and a tub of vanilla frosting. I could have ducked into the back room, slipped past the dairy cooler. Anything, but my feet didn't move. He looked up, locked eyes. "Jaden?" I gave him a nod. "Yeah? Hey?" And just like that, the tension in his shoulders dropped. His whole posture changed, like someone had hit the dimmer on his anger and turned up the regret. "Didn't know you were working here," he said. "You look different." "I've been busy. Classes, work." He gave a dry laugh. "Still mad?" I didn't answer. What was the point? He motioned to the cart. "It's your sister's birthday. She's turning 9. We're doing something small. I tried to. You should come." It caught me off guard how normal he was trying to be. Like we hadn't exploded at each other 4 months ago in front of my grandma over college, money, and everything in between. "You used to be good at baking cakes," he added. "Figured you might want to make one." That was before you called me a disgrace in front of Grandma. The teenage associate slowly backed away, probably praying for invisibility. I didn't blame him. Dad sighed and rubbed the back of his neck. A familiar gesture. He only did that when he was unsure of himself, which wasn't often. I was angry. he said. Away. You dropped out. You moved out. It felt like you were throwing your life. I wasn't, I said quietly. I was surviving. The words sat between us like a birthday candle no one wanted to light. Then he said, softer than I expected, "She misses you." I didn't know what to say. I just nodded and turned back to the cakes, pretending to rearrange the lemon bars. He left without another word. After the awkward bakery reunion, I tried to shake it off. I focused on the closing checklist: rotate the cupcakes, check the expiration on the pies, toss the stale muffins. But my mind stayed parked in that aisle, replaying everything. He'd shown up like he hadn't torn our family in half with his anger. Like it was just a minor storm we should have forgotten by now. That's the thing about people like my dad. They forget the thunder because they never hear their own thunder. Later that night, I was clocking out when the teenager from earlier stopped me near the break room lockers. His badge said Tyler. "Hey," he said, still chewing on whatever snack he'd smuggled from the deli. "That your dad?" "Yeah." He seemed intense. I smirked, slinging off my apron. He's not usually like that, unless he is. Tyler gave an awkward chuckle. "Family's weird." "Yeah," I said, grabbing my backpack. "That's one word for it." I walked out into the cold spring air, the kind that wasn't cold enough for a jacket but just chilly enough to make you feel small. I sat in my car for a long time, engine off, staring up at the Walmart sign. Glowing blue against the sky like a nightlight too tired to help. There were no tears, no rage, just silence. When I got back to Bryce's place, I opened my laptop to work on a midterm paper but just stared at the blank screen. Eventually, I typed out a short message. "Sunday at 3, right?" He replied almost instantly. "Yeah. Backyard. Just us." I didn't reply, just closed the laptop. Sunday came faster than I expected. I thought about ghosting it more than once, but something about the way he said "she misses you" stuck with me. I remembered helping her bake her first cookies, holding her tiny hand while she dumped flour everywhere, the way she hugged me when I brought home that pink unicorn cake for her 5th birthday. So I showed up, not with a homemade cake, just a smile and a gift bag from Target with glittery slime and a tiny sketchbook inside. The backyard hadn't changed. Same patio chairs, same dead grass, same string of lights that never worked right. She saw me through the window and ran out before anyone could stop her. "Jaden!" She hit me like a rocket, nearly knocking the gift out of my hands. "Hey, birthday girl," I said, hugging her tightly. She smelled like fruit punch and frosting. It made my chest hurt in the weirdest way. Dad stayed by the grill, watching from a distance. Mom waved from inside, trying to act casual, but I saw the tension. After the cake, after the presents, after the backyard games and soda-soaked paper plates, I found myself standing by the fence, alone. He came over. "I'm glad you came," he said, flipping a burger with the kind of attention people give when they're avoiding eye contact. "She looks happy," I said. "She is." We stood in silence for a while, the air thick with unspoken things. "I'm sorry," he said finally. "About Thanksgiving. About all of it." I didn't say anything. "I know I can't take it back," he added, "but I can try to be better." "Don't just try for me," I said. "Try for her." He nodded. "Yeah, for both of you." The weeks that followed weren't magical. He didn't suddenly become soft-spoken or emotionally fluent. I didn't move back in. But something shifted. We started texting occasionally, mostly pictures of my sister's latest Lego tower or updates about her school art show. We didn't talk about college, or money, or disappointment. Sometimes healing isn't a grand gesture. Sometimes it's just showing up to a backyard party and staying long enough to see the candles blown out. At work, Tyler kept asking about the cake aisle reunion like it was the season finale of a sitcom. "You guys good now?" "No," I said. "But maybe we're trying." It was a Thursday night when I found myself walking past the birthday cake aisle again, stocking shelves on autopilot. A little girl stood with her mom pointing at a pink frosted unicorn cake, the same one I used to get for my sister. She had the same wide eyes, same messy ponytail. The mom asked if I could write her daughter's name on the cake. I smiled. "Sure thing. What's her name?" "Lila," the girl said proudly. As I piped the name onto the frosting, I thought about how much happens in these aisles. Not just birthday plans and grocery lists, but life. Messy, emotional, unresolved life. I handed her the cake, and she beamed. Her mom thanked me. As they walked off, I turned back to the fridge, but something in me settled. Not everything is fixed. Not every apology is enough. But sometimes, the aisle is where the story starts again. Family wounds don't always heal with time, but they can soften with effort. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's choosing to let a door stay cracked open just wide enough for love to slip back in. I wasn't trying to be anywhere special that night. It was late October. I'd just finished my second shift, 7 hours on my feet at the front desk of an urgent care clinic after spending the morning shelving products at a home goods store. My scrubs smelled faintly like disinfectant, and my back felt like it had been stomped on by gravity itself. I wanted dumplings. That was it. Frozen dumplings and a bottle of oat milk, maybe cereal if I could afford it. The Walmart on 4th Plain in Vancouver was on my way home. It wasn't my favorite place. Too bright, too quiet. The kind of place that always felt like it was just one step away from something off. But it was convenient, and I was too tired to care. I parked under the usual flickering light, row D near the cart return. Didn't think twice. Inside, the store was calm, half asleep. A few moms with restless toddlers, a teenager talking too loudly on the phone near electronics, and me, moving like a zombie past the bakery section. I was in the cereal aisle comparing prices when I noticed him. Late 30s or early 40s, baseball cap, windbreaker. He was standing a few feet away, holding 2 boxes of oatmeal and looking like he was trying to solve a math problem. I didn't think much of it. I see all kinds of tired men in grocery stores. Most of them just want to get home too. But then I saw him again, in the frozen foods aisle. No cart, no basket, just him, walking slow. Then again near the yogurt section. I paused in front of the Greek yogurt cups and pulled out my phone, pretending to check a text. That's when I felt him step closer. "Hey, excuse me." His voice was too smooth, calm, but overly casual. "Yeah?" I said, not smiling but not rude, just neutral. "Sorry if this is weird. I just moved here. Can't figure out which yogurt is decent. You look like you eat healthy." I pointed to a vanilla brand. "That one's all right." "Cool," he said, holding the yogurt like it mattered. "You from around here?" Something in my stomach nodded. "Not really, just in and out." He smiled, a little too wide. "Shop late?" "Ah, I've seen you before. Maybe here a few times. You usually..." I felt the blood drain from my face. "I don't think so," I said, already starting to push my cart. "I barely come here." "Yeah, maybe I'm wrong," he said with a chuckle that didn't sound natural. Those familiar faces. "You've got one of..." I turned the corner into the snack aisle and kept walking. Fast. I didn't run. I didn't panic. I've learned not to do either. Instead, I moved with a purpose, like I was just another tired shopper on autopilot. But my ears were dialed in, scanning for footsteps, wheels, breathing. I cut through aisles fast, past canned goods and bulk snacks, toward self-checkout. I told myself he was probably just awkward, maybe lonely, maybe harmless. I've told myself that before. At the self-checkout, I scanned everything like it was a race. Oat milk, frozen dumplings, a clearance granola bar, no cereal. My hands were trembling slightly, but I kept my face calm. Then I looked over. He was at a regular checkout line, not near the exits, just standing. Cart nearly empty, just a bottle of water and a pack of mints. I felt my heart thump. Why spend that much time in 3 aisles for just water and mints? I paid and walked toward the exit, pretending to answer a call. "Hey, yeah, just grabbing groceries. Be there soon," I said out loud to no one, angling my head like I had someone on speaker. I stepped into the parking lot. Cool night air hit me like a slap. My breath fogged up. My keys were already in my hand, looped between my fingers the way I'd been taught. My car was under the flickering light. Halfway there, I saw movement in the side mirror. A figure behind me. I turned sharply, heart in my throat. It was an older woman returning her cart. Not him. I smiled, nodded, and kept walking, faster now. I got in, locked the doors, and sat there, gripping the steering wheel. No one knocked. No one followed. No shadow passed my window. I started the engine, but instead of leaving, I did a slow lap around the lot. No sign of him. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd been watched long before tonight. That night, back in my studio apartment, I didn't unpack my groceries right away. I sat on the edge of my bed with the lights off, listening. Nothing outside, no knocks, no strange sounds. I looked at the oat milk and felt stupid for being afraid, but something wasn't adding up. "You usually shop late." He was right. My schedule's been the same for months. Thursday nights after the clinic, quick Walmart run, back by 9. Routine is comforting until you realize someone else has noticed it too. I grabbed my phone and looked through my call log. Nothing weird. I checked my door locks. All good. But when I walked past the window, I pulled the curtain back just a little, just to be sure. Nothing out there. No one standing under the streetlight. No van idling. Just shadows and my own reflection. I tried to sleep, but my mind kept spinning. How many times had he seen me before he said something? Had I parked near him? Walked past him? Did he know my car? I kept thinking about his cart, about the fact that he wasn't really shopping, and about what could have happened if I hadn't trusted my gut. I changed things after that. Different store, different hours. I stopped going on Thursday nights, started mixing up my schedule. Sometimes a Target run, sometimes groceries in the morning. I even told my coworker Jasmine about it. She's the kind of friend who doesn't ask if you're overreacting. She just says, "Want me to come with you next time?" But the feeling stuck with me. That eerie sense of being studied. I wasn't scared. Not exactly. I was alert. And there's a difference. Scared keeps you frozen. Alert makes you remember to check your mirrors, to make noise, to trust your instincts. The thing about stories like this is that they usually stop when nothing happens. Because nothing did. Because I left before something could. But that's the part that matters. A few weeks later, I was at a different Walmart across town grabbing cold meds. It was early afternoon. Flu season had hit the clinic hard, and I'd just finished a 10-hour shift. As I reached for a bottle on the top shelf, I heard a voice behind me. "Excuse me, do you know if this one's any good?" My heart jumped, but it wasn't him, just a tired dad holding 2 boxes of cough syrup, looking truly confused. I exhaled and helped him out. Not every stranger means harm, but I still walked a little quicker that day. Still checked my mirrors before leaving the lot. Still kept my keys between my fingers. Because some people don't want to hurt you, but some do. And you don't always get to know which is which until it's too late. Listen to your instincts. You don't owe strangers your time, your answers, or your trust, especially when something feels off. Your safety is not paranoia. It's wisdom wrapped in experience. Trust it. Protect it. You might never know how close the danger was, but that's exactly the point. I didn't want to go. I told Natalie she could return the phone herself, but she just rolled her eyes and said she had too much going on. The kind of too much that always seemed to show up when I asked a question she didn't want to answer. We'd been together 4 years. The last 6 months had felt like walking across a frozen lake. Every word, every look might crack the ice. So when she tossed the receipt on the counter and asked if I could just return it for her, I said yeah. It was a prepaid track phone, nothing fancy. She claimed it had bad reception, that it glitched constantly, that the battery barely lasted a day. But she hadn't even opened it. The seal was still intact, which told me everything I needed to know. She didn't want it anymore because she didn't want me asking why she needed a second phone. Still, I figured the return would be simple, quick, in and out. I pulled into the Walmart on E. Hampton just after 6:30, just before the post-work crowd thinned out. The parking lot had that late winter feel, gray snowmelt crusted around the edges, and the air sharp enough to make your fingers ache even through your jacket. Inside, I joined the line at customer service. 5 people ahead of me, a toddler screaming, some guy with a broken coffee maker yelling about a missing part, standard chaos. I shifted my weight, trying to ignore my sore feet from driving Uber all day. That's when I noticed him. He wasn't in line. He wasn't browsing. He was just standing there, mid-40s, scruffy, eyes that didn't blink enough. Hoodie pulled tight around his face, watching. Not the shelves, the people. At first I thought maybe he was waiting on someone, maybe a ride or a friend inside. But he didn't move, just stood there, shifting his gaze from one person to another. I caught his eye for half a second. He turned fast, too fast. By the time I reached the counter, I'd already clocked his position again. He was near the prepaid phones, a few feet from the return desk now. Still hadn't picked anything up. The cashier looked worn out. Her name tag said, Cassandra. "Returning a track phone," I said, placing the sealed box on the counter with the receipt. "Workout." "Didn't card or cash?" "Card." I felt the man's eyes on me before I heard him. "Hey, you returning that track phone?" I turned slowly. He was right there, closer than he should have been. "Yeah, why?" "Just wondering, thinking about getting one for my kid, but they're kinda junk, right?" "I guess," I said, my tone clipped. "Didn't work well for us." "Mind if I see it? Just want to know the model." Cassandra snapped her head up. "Sorry, sir, we already processed it. He doesn't have the phone anymore." He held up his hands and backed off. "All right, chill." Something in me tightened, like a rubber band stretched too far. I grabbed my refund slip and walked away. Didn't look back. Not yet. The air outside hit hard, sharp and cold, like reality catching up. I didn't go to my car right away. I felt something buzzing under my ribs, not fear exactly. More like calculation. As I passed the automatic doors, I glanced to the left. He was walking. Not toward electronics, not toward the exit lanes, just drifting out past the registers straight into the darker side lot. No bags, no receipt, no purchase. Just a slow pace and a loose stride. Like someone with nowhere to be, but somewhere to go. I took a detour, walked straight into the front bathroom, locked myself in the handicap stall, and sat on the toilet lid fully clothed. Phone in hand, breathing quiet. I waited 5 minutes, maybe more. No one came in. No weird noises. Just the occasional flush and the buzz of overhead lights. When I finally left, I didn't head to the front doors. I went out the garden center, which they keep open for evening hours during spring inventory prep. The parking lot felt quieter now, dimmer. My car was parked in the second row, under one of the flickering poles near the far end. Alone. I stayed close to the garden fence line, scanning as I walked. No one behind me. No figures crossing the lot. I kept my keys in hand the way Natalie had shown me a year ago. One key between each finger like brass knuckles. She said she learned it in a self-defense class. I reached the driver door and unlocked it with a press. That's when I heard it. Footsteps. Not behind me. Off to the side. Soft. Quick. Like someone stepping away on gravel. I whipped around, empty. A few parked carts. A rusted-out sedan 3 rows over. No hoodie. No man. Still, I got in fast, locked the doors, and started the engine. But I didn't drive straight home. I took the long way back, out toward the freeway, then looped back around on Quincy just to be sure no one was tailing me. Paranoia? Maybe. But sometimes paranoia keeps you breathing. Natalie was on the couch when I got in, laptop open, one leg tucked under her. She didn't look up when the door opened. "Returned the phone," I said, tossing the receipt on the table. Thanks," she replied, not making eye contact. I hesitated, then added, "Weird thing happened." Now she looked up, not shocked, just curious. Weird how? There was a guy, kept watching me in the store, didn't buy anything, tried to ask questions about the phone, then walked out toward the lot without buying anything. I waited it out, left through the garden center. She blinked. That's weird. That was it. No follow-up. No. Are you okay? No. What did he look like? I watched her face carefully. She wasn't surprised. "Do you know him?" I asked. She frowned. "What? No. Why would I?" "I don't know. Maybe because you're acting like this happens all the time." She closed the laptop slowly. "Jordan, maybe you're just tired. Creeps exist. That doesn't mean it's about you." I wanted to believe that. I really did. But something in her voice was too calm, too practiced. Over the next few days, I couldn't shake the feeling. The way he asked about that phone, the way Natalie didn't react, the way she closed her laptop. Not in surprise, but like she didn't want me seeing what was on the screen. So I did something I hadn't done in months. I checked her call log. Not her phone, her laptop. She'd left it open, went to shower, and I clicked her browser history. It wasn't full of texts or social media. It was maps, searches like Denver burner phone plans and how to text anonymously. One listing stood out, a Craigslist ad, personal services, just a phone number. I wrote it down, tried calling it from a blocked number the next day. No answer. Later that evening, I asked Natalie again, calmly, "Was that phone really for you?" She didn't answer, just left the room. It's been 3 weeks since that night. We don't talk much anymore. She keeps her phone locked, her location off. I sleep less, drive more, and keep my eyes open in parking lots. I think about that man in the hoodie more than I want to. About what might have happened if I'd gone straight to my car, or if I'd shown him the phone, or if he'd been waiting for someone else entirely. There's no ending here. No arrest, no confrontation, just quiet space where trust used to live. But I still look around now, everywhere I go, and I always back into parking spots. Because even when the threat disappears, the lesson doesn't. The people closest to us don't always tell us everything, and strangers often tell us nothing at all. Trust is fragile, instincts are louder than excuses, and sometimes the scariest part isn't what someone did. It's what they almost did while you weren't looking. Stay aware, ask the hard questions, and don't ignore the silence between the answers. Long before I was afraid of self-checkout machines, I was afraid of silence. That's something you never expect to learn about yourself until life gets too quiet, until the house is still for days and no one calls just to hear your voice. Before my divorce, I thought silence was peace. Now, most nights, I fill it with reruns of sitcoms I've already memorized. Laughter from someone else's script. A voice that doesn't ask anything of me. It was a Tuesday. One of those Missouri spring evenings where the wind still stings, and you wonder why you didn't just order in again. I'd had a long day. One of my junior students plagiarized a full essay on Of Mice and Men. Not even subtly, just copied and pasted from a SparkNotes summary. When I reported it, the principal tossed it back to me like a hot potato. "You're good at these things, Emily. Handle it how you see fit." That's code for make the problem disappear quietly. I hadn't eaten all day. The fridge had nothing but mustard and an old bag of grapes that looked like shriveled marbles. I didn't want to go, but I got in the car anyway and drove to the Walmart neighborhood market just off End Church Road. It was 9:15. They close at 10. I figured I'd have time. The parking lot was nearly empty. Fluorescent lights buzzed against the dark sky. I stepped inside and was hit by that oddly familiar mix of chilled air, detergent, and bananas. The place was mostly deserted. A teenage stock boy in a navy vest was restocking frozen vegetables. He looked up briefly, then went back to his task. That was fine. I didn't want to be noticed. I moved quickly. Carton of eggs, bag of spinach, OJ, cereal, a frozen meal just in case. That was it. I just wanted to get in and out. At the self-checkout, I scanned everything. I reached for my card and swiped. Card declined. I stared at the screen. Tried again. Card declined. I pulled out my phone to check my banking app. The balance was fine. Rent had cleared. I hadn't overdrawn. And that's when a voice behind me made me flinch. Need help with that? He wasn't in a vest. Mid-30s maybe. Messy hair. Dark green flannel shirt over a gray t-shirt. His jeans were worn at the cuffs, and his eyes had that exhausted look I'd seen on people riding late buses. Men trying not to be noticed. "No, I'm okay," I said quickly. "Thanks." He stepped closer, just enough to make my skin crawl. "Sometimes these things glitch," he said. "Happens to me. Try cash?" "I don't have any." He didn't move, just stood there like he belonged. I glanced around. The teenage stalker was gone. The register desk was empty. No one in sight. "I think I'll just leave it," I said, forcing a smile. I hit cancel on the screen. The scanner beeped angrily. I turned and walked off, leaving the basket behind. As I neared the exit, I heard him say something. Barely a whisper. "I know what it's like when it gets tight." I didn't respond, didn't slow down, but that sentence stuck in my head. It wasn't just about money. It felt closer than that. Outside, my hands trembled slightly as I unlocked my car. He wasn't behind me. The glass doors stayed shut. I drove home with the heat on full blast, gripping the steering wheel like it could anchor me back into the real world. The next day, I tried to forget it. I told myself it was a weird moment. Everyone has them. Some guy hovering at checkout, maybe lonely, maybe unstable, maybe just trying to help in his own awkward way. That's what I said out loud as I got dressed for work, but I kept checking over my shoulder in the teacher's lounge, kept glancing out the classroom window like I expected to see someone watching from the parking lot. I didn't tell anyone. It felt stupid. I teach 16-year-olds how to interpret symbolism and write personal essays. I couldn't exactly walk into the front office and say, "A man looked at me weird while I was buying spinach." But then things got strange again. It started with a phone notification just after lunch. Your Walmart account was accessed from a new device. I didn't even know I had a Walmart account. I opened the app. It showed a device in Kansas City, an iPhone. Not mine. 2 password reset attempts had been made overnight. My stomach dropped. I changed the password. Set up 2-factor authentication. That night, I changed every password I could remember. Google, bank, school email, Amazon. I even updated my Netflix login just in case. I told myself it was a coincidence. But by Friday, our school's IT department contacted me. "Emily, we had some unusual activity on your email. Multiple login attempts from out-of-state IPs. We're resetting your credentials just to be safe." I thanked them and pretended it was fine, but it wasn't fine. At night, I'd walk past my window and feel like I was being watched. The glow of the streetlight outside felt harsher than usual. My dreams became muddy and stressful. I'd wake up with the weight of someone's eyes on me. The more I thought about it, the more that sentence haunted me. I know what it's like when it gets tight. It wasn't just a financial metaphor. It felt like something deeper, like pressure, like being cornered, like being strangled. Tight. The following Tuesday, I decided not to go out. I ordered groceries online. It felt like giving in. But I couldn't face that parking lot again. Not yet. I watched the delivery window like a hawk. When the driver arrived, I checked through the peephole before opening the door. Teenager. Harmless. I thanked him and locked up again. But something was off in the order. I had asked for almond milk, But there were 2 bottles. I asked for apples, got none, and in the bag with the cereal, tucked between a box of Cheerios and a can of soup, was a folded receipt for items I hadn't ordered. Men's thermal socks, a flashlight, a prepaid phone card. They weren't charged to me, not on my account. It was like someone else's purchase had bled into mine. I called customer service. The woman on the line was polite but confused. "That's not possible, ma'am. Orders are bagged individually." "Could this have come from another cart by mistake?" "Not usually," she said. "Each picker uses a separate bin." I asked her to double check. She said she would escalate the issue. I hung up and stared at the flashlight. It was a cheap one, plastic casing, still in the packaging. I threw it in the trash. But that night, my power went out. Only for a moment. Just long enough for every room to go dark. My heater clicked off. The fridge went silent. Then it came back. "A blip," the power company said. "Nothing to worry about." But I didn't sleep well that night. On Thursday, I went back to the store. Not because I wanted to, because I needed to know if he was real. Part of me had begun to wonder if I imagined it, like a ghost from a stressful week, a shadow of fear wearing a man's face. The Walmart neighborhood market looked exactly the same. I parked closer this time, waited a moment before getting out. I checked my mirrors 3 times. Inside, the lights were bright, the staff visible. I walked fast. Eggs, apples, bread, milk. I didn't see him. Not in frozen foods, not in the aisles, not at checkout. I paid in cash. As I exited, I passed a corkboard near the front doors. A community announcements thing. Babysitters, dog walkers, piano lessons. Pinned near the corner was a photo. A man's face printed in grainy black and white. Missing. Name, Jeremy L. Last seen, April 2022. Wearing, green flannel shirt. I stopped cold. It was him. The same eyes. The same tired mouth. Even the shirt matched what I remembered. I snapped a photo of the flyer and left without looking back. At home, I looked it up. Nothing came up except a low-res copy of the same flyer. No news reports. No follow-ups. The original Reddit thread where it was posted had no comments. Just vanished. Like he was never there. That Friday, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside, a single receipt. From Walmart. My name on it. Dated the Tuesday I saw him. Items listed: eggs, spinach, cereal, orange juice. Total, $19.14 payment method, cash. But I never bought those items. I left them at the register. I stared at it for a long time. That receipt had no business existing. It suggested a purchase that never happened, or worse, one I didn't remember making. I shredded it, burned the pieces in a dish on my balcony, and I haven't shopped at that store since. But sometimes, late at night, I'll be scrolling online and something will flicker. An old banner ad I don't remember clicking. A password reset email I didn't request. And always, that voice in my head, like a whisper from behind me in a quiet aisle. I know what it's like when it gets tight. Trust your instincts. Even in mundane places when something feels wrong, it often is. Discomfort is a form of awareness. Fear isn't always irrational, it's protective. When the world seems too quiet, pay attention to what's hiding in the silence. People always assume the worst part of a breakup is the moment you leave, but that's not true. Not for me. The worst part came later, after the bags were packed, after the ugly crying and the locked social media accounts. The worst part was the silence, the feeling that maybe you imagined how bad it was, because no one else saw it. Not the manipulation, not the gaslighting, not the way he made every apology sound like it was your fault. Tyler was the kind of guy people liked at first. He smiled easy, made jokes, helped people move furniture. The kind of man who fixed your cabinet doors before you even asked. And for a long time, I let those surface things convince me I was lucky. I wasn't. What I was stuck. We dated for 3 years, moved in together after 6 months because he said it just made sense. At first it did, but slowly, the house filled up with tension, with phrases like, "You always twist things," or "You're overreacting," or the classic, "You're too sensitive, Lena." It wasn't dramatic, no holes in the wall, no bruises, but it was constant, tiny cuts that built into something harder to name. He'd scroll through my texts when he thought I was asleep. He'd comment on how I dressed, ask who I was trying to impress. He'd accuse me of pulling away if I went for a walk alone. The last fight was over nothing, as always. I don't even remember what started it, but I do remember the way his voice dropped to a whisper, sharp and cold. "No one else will put up with you." That was the moment I decided to leave. I moved into a small apartment on the other side of Cheyenne, started fresh, new address, new Wi-Fi password, new routines. I blocked his number, changed my emergency contacts, told only 2 close friends where I was. I felt raw, but free. The world was quieter without him in it, until that Friday night at Walmart. I remember the sky looked strange that night. It had that muted gray-orange hue that makes it feel like something's about to happen, even if nothing does. I hadn't planned to go out. I was curled up on the couch in sweatpants, scrolling through my phone, half watching an old movie. But I realized I was out of toothpaste, and milk, and frozen dinners. Living alone teaches you fast that if you don't take care of it, no one else will. So I grabbed my coat and keys, drove out to the Walmart on Prairie Ave. It was after 9. Quiet. The kind of late where the store hums like it's trying to sleep. Inside, there were maybe a dozen people, a couple of teens loitering near electronics, a tired mom corralling 2 little boys in pajamas, a man coughing loudly in frozen foods. I moved fast, grabbed the milk, toothpaste, and a microwave pasta thing I'd regret later. I didn't linger. I was heading to the checkout when I saw him. Tyler, leaning against a light pole at the edge of the parking lot, arms crossed, one boot resting on the concrete base like he owned the place. My brain short-circuited. I dropped the milk. It hit the floor with a hollow thud and rolled, leaving a trail. I didn't pick it up. He shouldn't have been there. He didn't know where I lived. I hadn't told him anything. Hadn't contacted him. How did he know? He looked thinner. Hair messier. Jacket half-zipped. But the way he stared, like he was waiting for me, that hadn't changed. Then he started walking toward the store entrance, and I panicked. I didn't run. I told myself not to run. Running meant attention, a scene. And if there's one thing I learned from Tyler, it's that public scenes were his favorite kind of manipulation. So I walked quickly, left the basket, kept my eyes forward, didn't give him anything. "Lena," he called, his voice just loud enough to echo in that empty parking lot. "Wait. Come on." I kept walking. "You blocked me, remember? You think that's fair?" He was slurring a little. Not falling down drunk, but off enough that it made everything feel less stable. "Please," he said again. "I just want to talk." I clicked my car remote twice and opened the driver's door, heart hammering. He picked up his pace. We were everything to each other, Lena. I got in, slammed the door, locked it. His hand slapped the window just as I turned the key. "You think you can erase me?" The way he said it made my blood run cold. Like it wasn't just about our relationship, it was something darker. Like I'd broken a rule he didn't think I had the right to break. I reversed hard out of the spot and drove off. He was yelling something, but I couldn't hear it. My ears were ringing. His old black Chevy was still parked on the far end. I saw him run toward it in the mirror. I didn't take my usual route home. Instead, I zigzagged through neighborhoods, ducked into a strip mall, even parked behind an abandoned diner and killed the engine. I sat there, breathing shallowly, palms sweaty against the wheel. No headlights, no movement. Eventually, I made it to my apartment complex. Pulled in, waited, still nothing. But as I unlocked my front door and turned, he was there. He stood on the far corner of the block, swaying. I don't know how he found me. I hadn't given him the address. He didn't know my new street. But there he was, under that flickering streetlight, shirt unbuttoned halfway, like he didn't even notice the cold. He was mumbling to himself. I went inside, locked the door, turned off all the lights, peered through the curtain. He was pacing now, muttering, then yelling. She doesn't get to walk away like that. I gave her everything. He knocked over a trash bin, kicked it, then collapsed onto the curb like his legs just quit on him. I stood there in the dark, heart in my throat. I didn't want to call the police. I didn't want to escalate anything, but I also couldn't breathe. Then he got up again, staggered into the street, still shouting at no one, just rage and heartbreak spewing into the night. And then the headlights came. A white box truck, fast. It didn't slow down. He turned just as it reached him. The sound. It wasn't like in movies. There was no screech, no dramatic smash, just a dull, sickening thud. His body hit the pavement like it wasn't real. The truck pulled over, its hazard lights flickering. I dropped to the floor behind the curtain, hands over my mouth. I didn't look again. Not until the sirens came. They called it an accident. He was intoxicated, disoriented, a pedestrian in the middle of a poorly lit street. No drugs in his system, no suicide note, just a tragic end to a troubled man. That's what the news said. 2 paragraphs in the local column. Nothing about how he found me. Nothing about how he screamed my name just moments before. I didn't go to the memorial. I didn't speak to his family. But I did write down everything that happened. Every word. Every time he twisted love into control. Every lie I told myself to stay longer. It's been months now. And I still flinch when I hear certain voices. Still double-check my locks. Still dream about the impact. I didn't want him dead. That's the part that's hardest to explain. I just wanted him gone. He was the first person I ever loved. And the last person who ever made me afraid to breathe. His last words to me weren't spoken. They were screamed through a parking lot, wrapped in desperation. And I hear them sometimes in the quiet, when I let myself remember. You think you can erase me? No, Tyler, I can't erase you, but I can survive you. Leaving isn't the end of fear, but it's the beginning of freedom. Emotional abuse doesn't always leave visible scars, but it does leave weight. Fear, guilt, confusion. Trust your instincts. No apology or memory is worth losing yourself. You don't owe anyone your peace, especially the ones who broke it. It's strange how quickly normal can turn to danger. For most people, Friday nights meant dinner out, movie plans, noise, and laughter. For me, they meant Walmart. Every Friday after I clocked out of my second part-time job, I picked up Noah, and we'd stop at the Stillwater Supercenter for groceries. It was our routine, predictable, familiar. I always tried to keep things steady for him. Noah's 15. He's my little brother, but in a lot of ways, I'm more like his guardian. Our parents passed away 3 years ago, and it's been the 2 of us ever since. He's autistic, verbal but easily overstimulated, especially by loud or unpredictable noises. Sudden changes in energy throw him. A toddler's scream. Someone slamming a shopping cart. Raised voices. They all hit him like a fire alarm inside his skull. That's why we always had a plan. I carried his noise-canceling headphones in my bag, practiced breathing exercises with him in the car, and stuck to the outer aisles where it was quieter. I knew how to read his signs. The hand tapping, the shallow breathing, the clenched jaw. That night, though, things felt off from the moment we walked in. The store was louder than usual. Shelves half-stocked, carts jammed in every aisle. Kids were crying. A man near the pharmacy was pacing with his phone, yelling into it like the person on the other end was a mile away. I instinctively reached for Noah's hand, felt him tense. We moved through produce and frozen foods quickly. Milk, rice, a couple of frozen dinners, canned beans. Noah was doing okay. Quiet but alert, hanging onto my elbow. Then we got to the dairy aisle, and he started to spiral. Noah dropped his armful of groceries without warning. His hands flew to his ears, and he crouched, rocking lightly. I immediately crouched with him, blocking him from the oncoming cart traffic. "Breathe with me," I said softly. "In through the nose. 1, 2, out through the mouth." He tapped his thighs like a metronome. I reached into my bag and handed him the headphones. He shoved them on quickly, then looked at me, eyes wide, pleading for calm. I nodded, holding his shoulders gently. It wasn't the worst episode. We'd had worse. I was getting him to stabilize. His breathing was slowing when I heard the voice. Louder than anyone else. The man from earlier. Not on the phone anymore. He was in full meltdown mode. "Y'all think I don't see what you're doing, following me around like I'm some criminal. What's your problem, huh?" He was yelling at a Walmart employee, an older man, maybe in his 60s, wearing a yellow vest. The employee looked startled but was trying to keep his tone low. The man wasn't having it. He accused the employee of watching him, then turned his attention to another customer who happened to glance his way. "What you looking at, huh? Think you're better than me?" I pulled Noah to his feet gently. We started to move away. I didn't want us anywhere near that scene, but we weren't fast enough. He saw us. "Y'all staring too? What's with everyone watching me tonight, huh?" The voice hit me from across the aisle like a gunshot. I instinctively looked down, pulling Noah behind me. "We're not... Sorry, sir." "You people," he snapped. "Always acting like you're better, judging, always judging." Noah whispered something under his breath, still trying to regulate. It was a self-soothing script. I couldn't make out the words, but he repeated them softly, eyes darting. That's when the man locked eyes with him. "What's wrong with him, huh? He mocking me?" He took a step forward, shoulders square, fists twitching like he was trying to decide something. I stepped in front of Noah. "He's not mocking you," I said, voice steady. "He's autistic. Please leave us alone." That word, autistic, it was like I lit a fuse. The man's jaw clenched, his nostrils flared, and for a second, I thought he was going to hit me. But then mercifully a store manager appeared. Mid-30s, tie half loose, holding a walkie-talkie like it was a badge. He placed himself between us and the man immediately, voice calm but direct. "Sir, I need you to come with me. Let's take a walk. Right now." "I'm not doing anything," the man barked. "She started talking to me." "She asked you to walk away," the manager said. The man stood still, then muttered something I couldn't hear. Something dark. He turned and walked off with the manager behind him. I exhaled so hard my vision blurred. Noah was clinging to my arm, eyes glazed with shock. We made it to the checkout. Self-service. I scanned fast. Eggs, oatmeal, soap. I didn't even check prices, just paid and pushed the cart like we were escaping a fire. When we got to the car, I told myself it was over, but it wasn't. We loaded the bags quickly. I got Noah buckled in first, then threw everything else in the trunk. My hands were still shaking as I slid into the driver's seat. I started the car, headlights clicking on against the dusk. The sky had gone deep gray blue, almost purple. I remember thinking, let's just go. Let's get home. I shifted into reverse, and then I saw him, standing directly behind the car. The man, smiling. My chest collapsed in on itself. I couldn't move, couldn't even blink. He wasn't angry anymore. He looked amused, like this was a game he was winning. I tapped the horn lightly, a warning. He didn't flinch, just tilted his head like a dog hearing something strange. I glanced at Noah. He was watching, confused but not yet scared. I needed to keep it that way. "Sir, please move," I said, window still closed. He raised one hand and waved, then punched the rear window. Hard. I yelped. Noah jolted. The second punch came before I could think, louder, closer, like it might crack the glass. I slammed the car into reverse and hit the gas, not hard enough to hit him, but fast enough to push him back. He stumbled, caught off balance, and I swerved out of the space, tires screeching. I didn't stop, didn't even look back. We blew past the red light at the next intersection, didn't slow down until we hit Main Street. Only then did I pull over. I checked on Noah. His headphones were on, but he was curled up, hands over his face. "I'm sorry," I whispered. He didn't answer. Later that night, the police told me what I already suspected. The man had a record, multiple assault charges over the past decade, trespassing, disturbing the peace. One incident at a fast food place where he'd locked himself in a restroom and punched a mirror. Another at a bus station where he'd attacked someone for looking at him too long. He'd been banned from stores before. Mental health episodes were part of it, they said, but that didn't make him any less dangerous. I filed a report. They pulled surveillance footage, promised to follow up, but I could tell by the way they spoke that nothing would really come of it. Because we got away. Because it didn't get bad enough. I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, playing it over and over. What if we'd left the store 2 minutes later? What if I hadn't noticed him behind the car? What if there had been no manager nearby? Noah wouldn't have been able to run, not with all that noise, not in the dark. He would have frozen or panicked or shut down completely. And me? I don't know what I would have done. But I do know this. Walking away doesn't always keep you safe. Sometimes danger follows. Staying alert can save your life. But speaking up can save someone else's. We're often told to avoid confrontation, to walk away. And sometimes that's smart. But there are moments, quiet, terrifying moments, where stepping between danger and the vulnerable is the only thing that matters. Not everyone has the ability to protect themselves, so when we can, we must. Even when our voice shakes, even when our hands tremble. Courage doesn't feel brave when it happens, it feels like survival. Long before I ever heard the word trafficking outside of news clips or cable documentaries, I thought I was doing everything right. I was a single mom, working full-time at a medical clinic on the south side of Albuquerque, trying to juggle rent, snacks, bedtime routines, and a 4-year-old who still thought I was magic. My name's Callie Mendez. I was 28 the year it happened. Sierra had just started pre-K. I had just gotten out of a nasty breakup, the kind that makes you question if your gut instinct is worth a damn. We had just moved to a smaller apartment closer to my job. It wasn't perfect, but it was safer, more residential, neighbors who waved, a few moms with strollers around the complex. I was trying to reset our lives. And if I'm being honest, I was doing okay. Or I thought I was. It was a Saturday. Hot, dry, busy. I always hated grocery shopping on weekends, but Sierra had run out of yogurt pouches and we needed the usual. Paper towels, laundry pods, stuff for lunches. Walmart was packed, carts bumping into each other, toddlers crying, couples arguing over coupons. I almost turned around in the parking lot, but we were already there, and Sierra was begging for those little marshmallow cookies shaped like animals. We went in, I grabbed a cart, strapped her in with a pack of fruit snacks and her pink water bottle, and we made our rounds like always. I kept to the edges, avoiding the center chaos, past hardware, then health and beauty, on toward cleaning supplies. That's when Sierra spotted the big bin of stuffed animals near the seasonal aisle. "See?" she asked, already wriggling out of the strap. "Can I go?" It wasn't far, maybe 15 feet. I could see her the whole time, and I swear I looked up every 5 seconds. I even said out loud, "Okay, baby, just stay where I can see you." But I guess it only takes 3 seconds. I remember comparing prices on 2 bottles of detergent. One name brand, one store brand. I blinked, glanced up. She was gone. At first I didn't panic. Not really. I looked left, looked right. I figured she'd just crouched behind the bin or wandered to the next one. I called out her name. "Sierra?" Nothing. I pushed my cart around the display. That's when I saw her, sitting calmly in a shopping cart, juice box still in hand next to a man I didn't recognize. Tall, hoodie, gray and faded. jeans. Nondescript, except he wasn't looking down at her. He wasn't talking to her. He was just walking fast toward the back end of the store. Garden section. For half a second, I thought maybe she'd climbed into someone else's cart by accident. She was friendly, a little too friendly sometimes. But something in my stomach turned cold. "Excuse me," I called out, still confused. "Sir?" He didn't stop. Then everything in me shifted. "Hey, that's my daughter. Stop!" He turned slightly, met my eyes, and for a second, I'll never forget the way he looked at me. Blank. Like I wasn't even human. Like I was a fly buzzing in the background. Then he pushed the cart faster. I didn't think. I just ran, dropped my purse, dropped the detergent, sprinting in sandals down the slick Walmart tile, screaming, "Sierra! Sierra!" People were starting to look now. A couple froze. But then, another man, clean-cut, younger, maybe late 20s, stepped right in front of me. "Ma'am," he said, smiling too calmly, "you look confused. Let me help." "Get out of my way," I screamed and shoved him hard. That's when the dam broke. A cashier yelled. Another woman from the cleaning aisle, God bless her, sprinted ahead and blocked the exit. "Stop that man," she shouted. The guy let go of the cart. Sierra was crying, confused but safe. He bolted out the side emergency door. The second man? Gone. Sierra clung to me like a baby koala, sobbing, while I called 911 with shaking hands. I remember the details blurring together. People asking me questions I couldn't answer. The Walmart manager scrambling. Someone on a walkie-talkie calling for asset protection. The police arrived within 10 minutes, but the man was already long gone. The security footage was grainy. Why are those cameras always useless? And the plate on the car they thought he got into was unreadable. "Might be a burner car," one of the officers said, like it was nothing. But the worst part? One of the detectives told me in a lowered voice that I wasn't the first. "There were 2 similar cases this week," he said. "One in Rio Rancho, one over off San Mateo. Same method. One guy walks out with the kid in the cart. The other one tries to block the parent. If nobody says anything, they're gone before anyone notices." That hit me like a second punch. I kept thinking, what if that woman hadn't blocked the door? What if I hadn't screamed? Sierra was okay, physically. But something in her shifted too. She clung tighter when we walked through parking lots. Didn't want to be out of the cart. Sometimes at night she'd say, "Mommy, don't let the cart man find me." I didn't sleep right for weeks. Still don't, not really. After that, everything changed. I stopped shopping alone, no quick trips. I switched to online pickup for a while, and I started noticing things more. How easy it was to distract someone. How few people pay attention to anything around them in stores. I caught myself watching other kids too. Parents with their backs turned, babies sitting in carts while moms scrolled on their phones. I wanted to shake them, scream, "Don't look away," not even for a second. But you can't say that to strangers without sounding crazy. I enrolled Sierra in a safety class at the community center. They taught her how to scream, how to say, "You're not my parent," if someone tried to take her hand. I drilled it with her at home. She hated it, but I didn't care. I also got a tiny GPS clip that goes in her shoe, just in case. The world didn't change that day, but my world did. I learned that predators don't always wear trench coats or lurk in alleys. Sometimes they walk right past you, smile like customers, talk like helpers, and they count on the chaos. They count on you being tired, distracted, rushed, kind. It's been almost a year now. Sierra just turned 5. We celebrated at the park with cupcakes and a Paw Patrol cake. She doesn't talk about that day much anymore, but I do. I tell other parents, I tell coworkers. I even shared it at a PTA meeting once. And every time someone's eyes go wide like it never occurred to them something like that could happen in a place so ordinary. That's what still scares me most. How close they got. How easy it was. How no one noticed until I screamed. So I scream for her in a different way now. I tell people, watch your kids, stay off your phone in stores, trust your gut. Even if it feels awkward, even if it feels rude. Better rude than silent. Better a panic that turns out to be nothing than a silence that becomes a headline. And Sierra? She still sits in the cart sometimes, but now she always asks, "Mommy, you're watching me, right?" And I always answer the same way. Always, baby. Always. Danger doesn't always look like danger. It often wears the mask of normal life. Always trust your instincts, protect your children with vigilance, and never assume someone else is paying attention. In a world full of distractions, awareness is your first and best defense. I never go into Walmart for more than a few things. That Tuesday was no different. It had just finished raining, one of those steady North Carolina drizzles that turns every parking lot into a slick mirror. I had just gotten off a phone call with one of my boys from the youth center, DeAndre, 13, sharp kid, been struggling with some nonsense at school, another bullying issue. That kind of call stays with you. I told him I'd check in later, then parked, left the car running for a second, and just sat there. I was tired. Mentally, more than anything. Tuesdays always feel like leftovers from Monday, just slightly reheated stress. But I needed a few basics. Rice, shampoo, maybe a new tub of protein powder since mine was down to dust. I pulled my hood up before stepping out. Not trying to make a fashion statement, just didn't feel like getting my scalp wet. It was about 3:10 p.m. Not many people inside, mostly older folks and a few moms with little kids. The fluorescent lights buzzed above like they always do, giving the whole place that washed-out look. I moved quickly, sticking to my list. The first weird moment came near the shampoo section. I was comparing labels, figuring out whether to go with the usual or try something new with tea tree oil, when I noticed a young white woman pushing a stroller. She looked tired, maybe mid-20s, thin ponytail, leggings, oversized sweatshirt. She passed me once, then again, then a third time, this time glancing quickly and pulling out her phone. Didn't say anything, didn't make eye contact, just walked off. I didn't think much of it. People walk back and forth in stores all the time. I grabbed the bottle and moved on to dry goods. Rice was on aisle 10, protein powder on 12. I remember that clearly because I was moving fast, trying to beat after-school traffic on the main roads. It wasn't until I reached self-checkout that I felt the eyes on me. I had 3 things in my hands. No cart, no basket. I scanned the shampoo first. That's when they approached. 2 men, late 30s maybe, both wearing Walmart security vests, badges swinging on lanyards. One bald, one with a clipboard. "Sir, we've had a concern. We need you to step aside and speak with us." I turned slowly, confused. What kind of concern? "There was a report of suspicious behavior in the baby aisle," the bald one said. "We just need to clear it up. Won't take long." I blinked. Baby aisle? I haven't even been near the baby aisle. The one with the clipboard motioned politely but firmly. "Let's just step back here." They didn't touch me, didn't cuff me, but it didn't matter. Everyone around us was watching. The cashiers, the older woman with a cart full of laundry soap, a teenager holding a bag of Takis. I felt their eyes burning into me as I followed these men past the registers, past the electronics department, into the back hallway where the floors suddenly turned gray and industrial. Inside a small, cluttered office, they asked me to sit. A monitor played security footage on loop, black and white, high angle. I could barely make out faces. "Do you know this woman?" the clipboard guy asked. He pointed to a blurry figure pushing a stroller. I squinted. "No." "Have you spoken to any children in the store?" I laughed once, not because it was funny, just disbelief. "No, I haven't talked to anyone in this store." "Why did you switch aisles so often?" I kept my voice level. "Because I was shopping. Rice, shampoo, protein, that's it." They didn't say much after that, just watched the footage, rewound, watched again. Clipboard guy took notes. Bald guy leaned against the wall, arms crossed. 30 minutes went by, maybe more. Eventually, they both leaned back from the monitor. Clipboard guy cleared his throat. Well, based on the footage, it looks like you remained in the same general aisles. She passed by you a few times. Looks like she may have gotten the impression you were following her. I stared at him. Office? So, she thought I was following her, so that's enough to pull me into a back. He shifted, uncomfortable. It was a complaint. We have to take those seriously. Sure, but nobody checked the footage before bringing me back here? The bald one finally spoke again. It's just protocol, sir. Protocol, I repeated, more to myself than anyone else. They didn't apologize, didn't offer me a voucher or a manager or even a nod of embarrassment. Just a cold, you're free to go. I walked back out to the front of the store. I didn't bother resuming checkout. I dropped the bottle of shampoo in a random bin near the pharmacy and kept walking. The receipt was still in my pocket, crumpled and useless. Outside, the rain had stopped, sun peeking through the clouds like nothing had ever happened. But something had. Something had definitely happened. I sat in my car for a while before turning the ignition. You'd think I'd be used to this. I'm 36. I've lived in Fayetteville my whole life. Army vet, youth counselor. I don't raise my voice. I don't posture. I don't wear sagging pants or flashy chains. I've been pulled over for nothing. I've been followed in stores. But it still catches you off guard. The sudden shift from person to suspect. I thought about how fast it could have gone differently. What if I'd raised my voice? What if I'd walked toward the woman to ask why she kept circling me? What if I'd refused to go to the back without seeing proof? The fact is, I know the rules. I learned them early. Rule 1, stay calm, even if you're boiling inside. Rule 2, keep your hands visible. Rule 3, never ever lose your cool, because losing your cool gets redefined when you look like me. I didn't go back to that Walmart for months. I started using a grocery delivery app, avoided public errands if I could. It wasn't fear, not exactly, more like weariness, a tiredness deep in the bones. Because it's not about the one incident. It's about how many you carry with you, and how light you have to pretend they are just to keep moving through your day. Later that night, I got a text from DeAndre again. Said a kid threw his lunch tray at him in the cafeteria. Said the teacher told him to just ignore it. I called him right back, let him vent, told him to breathe, told him I was proud of him for keeping his cool. I meant it. After we hung up, I thought about what I wanted to teach him, what I should be teaching him. I thought about how the world reads our bodies, our presence, how quick people are to assume, how slow they are to apologize. I thought about the look on that woman's face, that flash of suspicion, and how that moment, whether she meant it or not, became a chain of consequences. I keep telling the kids at the center, control what you can control. But I wish I could promise them more. I wish I could tell them the world would see them clearly. But sometimes all I can say is, stay calm, be smart, make it home. Perception shapes reality, but not always truth. We live in a world where fear and bias can turn an ordinary moment into an accusation. It's a reminder to slow down, look again, and question your assumptions. Because what you think you see could ruin someone else's day, or worse, their life. People think being big means you're confident, that when you've got broad shoulders, thick arms, and that ex-football frame, nothing gets under your skin. But that's not how it works. Not for me, anyway. My name's Tyler Moss. I'm 30, a personal trainer now living in Fort Worth. I used to play college ball, linebacker, back before a torn ACL during junior year ended those dreams. I never went pro, never even walked across a draft stage, but I stuck to fitness, opened a small garage gym, built a steady client list. I'm good at what I do and I keep to myself. Always have. But no matter how chill you try to be, There's always someone who sees the muscle before the man. It was a Sunday, quiet, muggy evening in late summer. I'd just finished a late lift at my buddy's gym near Henderson Street. Nothing crazy. Back day, some cardio, few stretches. I was tired, hungry, but figured I'd stop at the Walmart off 35 before heading home. I needed almond milk, some frozen veggies, protein powder. That's it. I didn't even bother changing. Still had on my black tank top, joggers, sneakers, and had my gym duffel slung over one shoulder. It's Fort Worth. Gym wear's nothing new around here. I didn't think twice. I walked in, nodded at the greeter, popped my earbuds in. I wasn't trying to vibe or pose. I was tired. My legs were dragging. You lift heavy enough, your gait changes by default. I headed toward the health and fitness aisle. That's when it started. I was comparing protein bar labels, calories, sugar, macros. You'd be surprised how many lie on the front label. I always read the back. That's when I caught a flash out of the corner of my eye. 3 girls, teenagers, probably 16 or 17, hovered near the drink coolers. One pointed at me. Another glanced up, then quickly looked back at her phone and laughed. I could feel them whispering, watching. My stomach dropped a little. I've seen that look before, the one where they think you're some kind of joke or threat. I sighed, slipped my hoodie out of my duffel, and pulled it over my head. Just wanted to finish shopping. Moved down to the vitamin aisle to avoid the weirdness. I figured maybe they'd lose interest. Teenagers act weird sometimes. I wasn't trying to cause a scene. I didn't even make eye contact. About 10 minutes later, I was squatting down to check some shelf supplements when I felt a tap on my shoulder. Not hard, but sharp enough to make me stand fast. 2 Walmart employees stood there. One older guy, looked managerial. The other, a younger woman with a clipboard and tight expression. "Hey, sir," the guy said with this rehearsed tone. Few quick questions. "Sorry to bother you. We just need to ask you I pulled out one earbud." "About what?" He cleared his throat. "We received a report from some shoppers, minors, that there was a man following them around and making them uncomfortable." I blinked. I wasn't following anyone. The woman clutched her clipboard tighter. The guy nodded. "I understand. We just have to follow up on any complaints. Would you mind stepping into the office real quick?" Everything in me wanted to say no, but I knew better. So I nodded. I'd never been in a Walmart security office before. It was cold, quiet, walls lined with gray shelving, a monitor in the corner playing grainy camera footage from overhead angles. The manager motioned for me to sit, then turned to the screen. "This is aisle 6, he said. "This is where the complaint started." I leaned forward, arms on my knees. Sure enough, there I was, walking into the aisle alone. The camera caught me browsing the shelves. A minute later, the girls walked in from the opposite end. "See that?" I said. I was already there. He nodded. "Yeah, I noticed that." The young woman stepped forward holding a phone. "They also posted this." She handed it over. An Instagram story, a screenshot. "This creep keeps following us. We told an employee. Hope they kick him out. You." My heart just dropped. I stared at the post. It had over 300 likes, a couple of fire emojis, one laughing face. "I didn't even look at them," I said slowly. "Through 3 aisles, tops. Didn't talk, didn't move toward them. I walked." The girl winced, clearly uncomfortable now. "Look," I said, handing over my phone. "Here's my GPS. I got here 18 minutes ago. Text with my cousin about dinner. You can track it. I stayed in this section the whole time." They reviewed everything. It all checked out. No interaction, no movement toward them, just proximity. The manager nodded. "You're good, man. Sorry again. Just, you know how things are now." I stood up slowly. "Yeah, I know." Walking out, I saw them, the girls near checkout laughing, one still staring at her phone. "He looks so mad, LOL. I heard one whisper. They never even saw me glance their way. I didn't speak, didn't scowl, just walked past them and out the door. I left the cart, didn't want anything anymore. Outside, the sun had just dipped past the horizon. Purple streaks cut through the Fort Worth sky. I sat in my car with the engine off for a long time. This wasn't the first time. Once, a mom at a coffee shop pulled her daughter close when I walked in. Another time, someone accused me of blocking their car in a parking lot when I was just lifting groceries into my trunk. It's not always dramatic, it's just constant. A slow drip of suspicion. A lifetime of people deciding who you are before you open your mouth. I didn't cry, but my hands shook for a bit. Not from anger, from exhaustion. The weight I carry, it's not all muscle. I didn't go to the gym the next morning. Stayed in, pulled on a baggy hoodie, wore it all day, even at home. It's wild how fast one lie can feel truer than your whole lived experience. That Instagram post, people believed it. No one asked what actually happened. No one thought, maybe they misread it. Being misunderstood is one thing. Being seen as dangerous for doing nothing but existing, that's another. It took a week before I went back to my routine, back to training clients, back to grocery shopping, but with that quiet tension, the kind where your shoulders never fully relax, where you track people in your periphery just in case someone feels uncomfortable again. And maybe the worst part is, I know it'll happen again. Maybe not this month, maybe not this year, but someday someone will decide I look like someone who could, and that'll be enough. Assumptions are powerful and dangerous. Judging someone by their appearance can cause real harm, especially when those judgments are amplified online without truth or context. What feels like a joke or a moment of caution can deeply impact another human being's life. See people, not shadows. Think before you post. And if you're ever unsure, choose compassion over fear.